If you don't subscribe to the channel, all the stories will happen to you. Get ready for the nightmare. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the dense thicket of trees surrounding the small town of Elmswood. It was a tranquil evening, the kind that lulled residents into a false sense of security. Liam, a spirited young man with a penchant for adventure, often found solace in the woods just beyond his backyard. He had explored every nook and cranny, but on this particular day, something felt different. As he wandered deeper into the forest, the familiar sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds began to fade, replaced by an eerie silence that settled around him like a thick fog. The air felt charged, as if the woods were holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Just as he brushed aside a low-hanging branch, a piercing cry broke through the stillness, an unmistakable sound that sent chills racing down his spine. "Is that a baby?" Liam murmured, his heart racing with confusion and concern. He had heard tales of abandoned children and mysterious happenings in these woods, but he had never given them much credence. However, this cry was real, raw, and filled with desperation. Against his better judgment, he followed the sound, pushing through the underbrush. The further he ventured, the thicker the trees became, their gnarled branches clawing at his clothes as if trying to hold him back. The cry echoed again, stronger this time, pulling him forward like a siren's call. "Hello?" Liam called out hesitantly, his voice trembling. "Is anyone there?" Silence enveloped him again, the only sound his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He hesitated, feeling a mix of fear and determination. He had to know where the sound was coming from. Steeling his nerves, he pressed on, his instincts guiding him deeper into the woods. As he navigated through the twisting paths, the trees parted slightly, revealing a small clearing bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. In the center of the clearing lay an old wooden cradle, its surface worn and splintered. But it was the sight of a tiny bundle nestled inside that made Liam's heart skip a beat. The baby lay swaddled in a tattered cloth, crying softly, its little fists waving in distress. Liam rushed forward, his heart aching at the sight. "Oh, sweetheart, what are you doing here?" he whispered, his hands trembling as he reached out. As he approached, he noticed that the clearing was unusually quiet, the air thick with an unexplainable tension. It felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Liam glanced around, half expecting someone to emerge from the shadows, but there was only the sound of the baby's cries and the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. "Hey, it's okay," he soothed, gently lifting the baby from the cradle. The tiny face turned toward him, eyes wide and innocent. He could hardly believe how small and fragile it felt in his arms. "We're gonna get you out of here." But as he cradled the baby against his chest, the feeling of unease settled deeper into his bones. The woods around him seemed to pulse with an energy that made his skin crawl. He had to leave. He had to get back to town and find help. Just as he turned to retrace his steps, a low growl echoed from the trees behind him. Liam froze, his heart racing as he turned slowly, the baby still nestled protectively against him. Emerging from the shadows was a large, dark figure, its eyes gleaming in the fading light. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky but firm. The figure stepped closer, revealing itself to be a man, his expression a mixture of anger and sorrow. "What are you doing with that child?" he demanded, his voice deep and authoritative. Liam instinctively took a step back, holding the baby closer. "I found her here. She was alone." The man's expression softened for a moment as he glanced at the infant, but then hardened again as he stepped forward. "You shouldn't have come here. This place is dangerous, and that child, she belongs to someone else." "What do you mean?" Liam's mind raced with questions, but before he could ask, the man was upon him, his presence overwhelming. "You need to leave now," he said, his tone brokering no argument. "I can't just leave her," Liam protested, panic rising within him. "She needs help." The man sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "You don't understand what you're getting into. There are forces at play in these woods that you can't begin to comprehend. If you take that child, you might bring something back with you." A chill ran down Liam's spine. "What do you mean? What's in these woods?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "There are things here that should remain hidden. This baby is a part of something much larger, a legacy of darkness that has haunted this forest for generations. You must leave before it's too late. Liam's heart raced, torn between his instinct to protect the child and the man's ominous warning. The baby's cries echoed in the silence, pleading for comfort and safety. He couldn't just abandon her, but the man's words sent a shiver of dread through him. "Please help me," he begged, his voice cracking. "I just want to keep her safe." The man hesitated, his gaze flickering between Liam and the baby. Finally, he let out a defeated breath. "Fine, but you must follow me. We need to get her out of here before it's too late." With no other choice, Liam nodded, gripping the baby tightly as he followed the man through the trees. The forest felt different now, the shadows lengthening and swirling around them as if alive. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something was lurking just beyond the reach of the light. As they moved swiftly through the underbrush, the man glanced back at him. "What's your name?" "Liam," he replied, his heart pounding. "Liam," he repeated, as if testing the name. "You need to trust me. I'm Jace, and I know these woods better than anyone. I can help you, but you must be careful. Once the darkness is stirred, it doesn't easily settle back." Liam nodded, fear and determination warring within him. He had entered these woods searching for adventure, but now he found himself entangled in something far more dangerous than he could have imagined. Together, they made their way through the twisting paths of the forest, the shadows closing in around them. With each step, Liam felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. But one thing was clear. He would do whatever it took to protect the baby in his arms. Liam followed Jace through the labyrinth of trees, the weight of the baby nestled against his chest, grounding him amid the rising tension. The shadows deepened as they moved, and the forest seemed to close in around them, muffling the sounds of the outside world. A chill crept into the air, making Liam shiver despite the warmth of the setting sun. "Stay close," Jace instructed, his voice low but firm. "We need to move quickly." Liam nodded, casting furtive glances over his shoulder. The shadows felt alive, twisting and shifting as if hiding secrets he wasn't meant to uncover. "Where are we going?" he asked, trying to steady his nerves. "To a safe place," Jace replied, his expression grim. "But you need to understand, the woods are more than they seem. There's a reason people have gone missing here." "What do you mean?" Liam asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. "There are stories," Jace continued, weaving through the underbrush. "Legends of an ancient power that resides in these woods. Many believe it can grant wishes, but at a terrible cost. Those who seek it are often consumed by it." Liam's heart raced at the thought. "And the baby? What does she have to do with it?" "She is part of a lineage tied to the forest," Jace said, glancing back at Liam. "Her presence here is not a coincidence. You may have awakened something by taking her from the cradle." The words sent a shiver down Liam's spine. "What are we going to do?" "First, we need to find shelter for the night. I know a cabin not far from here," Jace replied, his pace quickening. "It's protected, at least for now." As they hurried through the trees, Liam felt a sense of urgency building within him. The baby's soft coos calmed him momentarily, but the weight of the unknown hung heavily in the air. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a small, weathered cabin nestled in a clearing. The structure was aged but sturdy, surrounded by tall trees that provided a natural barrier. Jace pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit interior filled with rustic furnishings. "Get inside," Jace instructed, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. Liam stepped in cautiously, still cradling the baby protectively against him. Once inside, Jace closed the door with a thud, securing it with a heavy bolt. He turned to Liam, his brow furrowed with concern. "We need to keep the baby quiet. She might attract unwanted attention." Liam nodded, gently bouncing the baby in his arms. "I'll do my best." He glanced around the cabin, taking in the sparse decor, a table, a couple of chairs, and a worn fireplace. A sense of isolation settled around him, amplified by the darkness creeping in through the windows. It was hard to believe they were just moments away from the dense, chaotic woods. Jace knelt beside the fireplace, rummaging through a small chest. "I have some supplies here," he said, pulling out a few blankets and a canteen of water. "We can't stay here long. We need to figure out what to do next." Liam looked down at the baby, whose eyelids were growing heavy. "She needs to sleep. We can't just run around the woods all night." "You're right," Jace conceded, a hint of respect in his voice. "Let's settle her down first." Liam carefully laid the baby on the table, wrapping her in one of the blankets. As he did, he noticed a strange mark on the child's wrist, a small crescent shape, almost glowing in the dim light. The sight sent a wave of unease through him. "What's this?" he asked, pointing to the mark. Jace leaned closer, studying the baby's wrist. "That symbol, it's ancient. It signifies a connection to the forest and its powers. She is not just any child. She is a beacon for something much larger." Liam's mind raced with questions, but before he could ask, a low rumble echoed from outside the cabin. The ground beneath them vibrated slightly, and a deep growl filled the air, resonating through the walls. "What was that?" Liam asked, his heart pounding. Jace's expression darkened. "We need to move. Whatever that is, it's getting closer." Liam quickly gathered the baby, cradling her against him once more. Jace grabbed the canteen and a small bag, his eyes scanning the room for any other supplies. "We'll have to find another way out. The front door is no longer safe." "Where do we go?" Liam asked, panic rising in his chest. "There's a trapdoor in the back," Jace replied, moving swiftly to a corner of the cabin. He pushed aside a worn rug, revealing a wooden hatch. "It leads to a cellar. We can hide there until the danger passes." With a sense of urgency, Liam followed Jace to the trapdoor. He could hear the growls outside growing louder, a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking in the woods. Jace lifted the hatch, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Get down first," Jace instructed. "I'll follow you." Liam nodded, his instincts screaming for him to protect the baby at all costs. He carefully made his way down the creaking steps, clutching the infant tightly against him. The air in the cellar was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the tension above. Once inside, Jace closed the hatch, plunging them into near darkness. The only sound was the baby's soft breathing, and for a moment, Liam felt a fragile sense of safety. But as Jace lit a small lantern, illuminating the cramped space, the weight of the unknown pressed down on them. "What happens now?" Liam whispered, glancing at Jace. "We wait," Jace replied, his voice steady, "and we hope that whatever is out there doesn't find us." As the shadows danced around them, Liam could feel the presence of the forest closing in, its mysteries entwining with their fates. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far more sinister than he had ever imagined. The cellar was small and cramped, filled with the scent of earth and old wood. Liam settled against the wall, still cradling the baby, who was now peacefully asleep. Despite the pressing darkness, he felt a flicker of hope. If they could just remain hidden for a while longer, perhaps they would find a way out of this nightmare. Jace paced back and forth, his brow furrowed in thought. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," he muttered, more to himself than to Liam. "There are forces in these woods that don't take kindly to intruders." Liam watched him, anxiety gnawing at his insides. "But what does that mean? What kind of forces?" Jace paused, glancing at Liam with a mix of concern and urgency. "There are spirits tied to this land, some benevolent, but many are dark. They feed off fear and chaos, and the baby, she is a conduit. If they sense her presence, they will come looking." "What do you mean by conduit?" Liam asked, shifting the baby slightly in his arms. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. The mark on her wrist indicates she has a connection to the woods. It might give her the ability to communicate with the spirits, or worse, attract them. We need to keep her safe and find out what she truly is. Liam's heart raced as he absorbed Jace's words. "But how? What can we do?" "We need to gather information," Jace said, his voice low but resolute. "There's a book, a journal kept by my grandmother. It details the history of these woods and the spirits that inhabit them. If we can find it, we might uncover the truth about the baby and what we're up against." "Where is it?" Liam asked, the thought of leaving the safety of the cellar sending another wave of dread through him. It's in the attic of my family's cabin, Jace replied, his eyes narrowing with determination. But it's a risk. We'll have to move quickly and quietly. Liam nodded, a sense of urgency igniting within him. Then let's do it. We can't just sit here and wait for something to happen. Jace paused, studying Liam. Are you sure? If we get caught, I'm not going to let anything happen to her. Liam interrupted, his voice firm. We'll find a way. After a moment of contemplation, Jace nodded. All right, let's go. They climbed back up the staircase, careful to make as little noise as possible. Jace pushed open the hatch slowly, peering into the dimly lit cabin. The growls from earlier had faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that hung in the air like a thick fog. Stay close, Jace whispered, his voice barely audible. We'll make our way to the back door. With the baby cradled protectively in his arms, Liam followed Jace through the cabin. The feeling of being watched intensified, each creak of the floorboards sending prickles of fear racing up his spine. Jace led the way, his body tense with anticipation as they reached the back door. Jace opened it a crack, scanning the area beyond. It's clear for now, he said, slipping out into the cool night air. Liam followed, holding his breath as they stepped into the open. The forest was eerily quiet, the trees looming overhead like sentinels guarding their secrets. This way, Jace urged, moving quickly but quietly through the underbrush. Liam's heart raced as they navigated the familiar paths, the moon casting ghostly shadows on the ground. Every rustle of leaves felt amplified, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond their sight. He could feel the tension coiling within him, each step forward a leap of faith into the unknown. As they approached Jace's family cabin, a chill swept through the air, causing Liam to shudder. Is it always this quiet? He whispered, glancing around nervously. Not usually, Jace replied, his tone grave. Something is definitely off tonight. They reached the cabin and slipped inside, the familiar scent of wood and old memories enveloping them. The journal should be in the attic, Jace said, leading the way up a narrow staircase. Liam followed, the baby still nestled close to him. As they reached the attic door, Jace hesitated, placing a hand on the handle. We should be quick, he warned. If something is out there, it could sense us. With a nod, Liam helped Jace push the door open. The attic was dimly lit, filled with old furniture and boxes piled high. Dust danced in the beams of moonlight filtering through a small window, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew and memories. Start looking, Jace instructed, moving toward a stack of boxes. It should be around here somewhere. As they searched through the clutter, Liam's mind raced with questions. He thought of the baby and the mark on her wrist, the whispers of darkness lurking in the forest, and the danger that seemed to follow them. Here it is, Jace exclaimed, pulling an old, leather-bound journal from beneath a pile of dusty blankets. He brushed off the cover, revealing intricate designs etched into the surface. Let's see what my grandmother knew about the spirits of these woods. Liam peered over Jace's shoulder as he opened the journal, revealing pages filled with elegant handwriting and strange sketches. Look, Jace said, tracing a finger over a drawing of a tree with twisted branches. This tree is said to be a gateway, a place where the veil between our world and the spirit realm is thin. Liam's heart raced as he studied the illustration. What does it say about it? It talks about a ritual, Jace replied, flipping through the pages. A way to commune with the spirits, but it also warns of the dangers. If the ritual is performed improperly, it can unleash the dark entities that haunt these woods. Liam's mind raced with possibilities. Could the baby be connected to this ritual? It's likely, Jace said, his voice filled with apprehension. But we need to be cautious. If we attract the wrong attention, we might not make it out of here. Just then, a chilling wind swept through the attic, sending shivers down their spines. The temperature dropped sharply, and Liam felt a sense of dread wash over him. Did you feel that? He asked, glancing around anxiously. Before Jace could respond, a loud crash echoed from below, reverberating through the cabin. The sound was followed by an unearthly growl that sent a jolt of terror through Liam. What was that? He gasped, gripping the baby tightly. Stay quiet, Jace hissed, his eyes wide with fear. We need to hide. Without thinking, Liam darted behind a stack of boxes, Jace following close behind. They held their breath, the sound of heavy footsteps approaching the cabin sending adrenaline coursing through their veins. The door to the attic creaked open, and a dark figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light. A low, guttural growl filled the air, and Liam felt his heart race as he clutched the baby closer, praying they wouldn't be discovered. The dark figure loomed in the doorway, its shape indistinct but menacing. Liam's breath quickened, a mix of fear and urgency coursing through him. He dared not make a sound, clutching the baby protectively against his chest. Jace tensed beside him, his eyes locked on the intruder, who seemed to be scanning the room with an otherworldly intensity. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the cabin settling. Liam could hear his heart pounding in his ears, drowning out any rational thought. What was this creature? Was it drawn to the baby? The question swirled in his mind, but there was no time for answers. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, its outline sharpening in the faint light of the attic. Liam squinted, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. A long cloak billowed around the figure, and from within its depths, glowing eyes pierced through the darkness. The sight sent chills racing down his spine. Jace gripped Liam's arm tightly, his expression one of sheer terror. "Stay quiet," he whispered again, his voice a tense whisper. "We can't let it know we're here." The figure moved deeper into the attic, its footsteps soft yet deliberate. It reached for something on a nearby shelf, fingers brushing against the dusty items as if searching for something specific. Liam's pulse raced as he realized they had to do something fast. "Do you have a plan?" he whispered to Jace, barely able to contain his rising panic. Jace's gaze darted around the attic, searching for an escape. "We need to distract it. There's a window on the far side. If we can draw it away from the door, we can make a break for it." Liam nodded, his mind racing as he considered their options. "What should I do?" "Hold the baby close and stay low. I'll try to create a distraction," Jace replied, his voice steadying despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm them both. Just as Jace prepared to make his move, the figure suddenly turned its glowing eyes towards them, as if sensing their presence. Liam's heart dropped as he realized they had been discovered. "Run!" Jace shouted, bursting from their hiding spot. He hurled a wooden crate across the attic, sending it crashing into a wall. The noise echoed like thunder, and the figure immediately turned, its attention now fully diverted. Liam wasted no time. He bolted for the window, the baby cradled securely against him. As he reached it, he felt a wave of cold wash over him, a deep, unsettling chill that seemed to seep into his bones. The figure roared in fury, a sound that reverberated through the attic and sent shockwaves of fear through Liam. He scrambled to push open the window, the old wood creaking in protest. Come on," he urged himself, glancing back to see Jace struggling to distract the creature. "Liam," Jace yelled, fear etched across his face. "Now!" With a final push, Liam opened the window wide enough to squeeze through. He took a deep breath and climbed out, dropping into the cool night air below. He landed awkwardly, rolling to absorb the impact. The baby let out a soft whimper, but remained calm, as if sensing the urgency of the moment. "Quick!" Jace shouted, leaping through the window behind him. "This way!" They dashed into the trees, the shadows enveloping them once more. The sounds of the creature's growls echoed from the cabin, each growl vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Liam's instincts kicked in, propelling him forward as he fought to maintain his grip on the baby. "Where do we go?" Liam panted, glancing over his shoulder. The darkness seemed alive, whispering secrets and threats. "There's a path through the trees," Jace replied, his voice strained. "It will lead us to a clearing. We need to get there before it catches up." They navigated the tangled underbrush, branches clawing at their clothes as they raced deeper into the woods. The moonlight filtered through the canopy, illuminating their path just enough to avoid stumbling. Liam's heart raced as they reached the edge of the clearing. The sight was haunting, a vast expanse of grass bordered by ancient trees, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. In the center stood a massive, gnarled tree with a thick trunk and sprawling roots, a stark contrast against the starry sky. "Over here," Jace urged, leading Liam towards the tree. They ducked behind it, pressing their backs against the rough bark. "Will it find us here?" Liam asked, breathless, as he held the baby close, feeling her warmth against him. "Not if we're quiet," Jace replied, scanning the clearing. "But we can't stay here for long. We need to figure out our next move." Just then, a low growl echoed through the clearing, sending shivers down Liam's spine. The figure had followed them, its presence looming just beyond the trees, searching for its prey. The air grew heavy with tension, and Liam could feel the weight of danger pressing in around them. "Look," Jace whispered, pointing to the massive tree. "That's the gateway mentioned in the journal. If we can make it there and perform the ritual, it might protect us from whatever is hunting us." "Are you sure?" Liam questioned, doubt creeping in. "What if it doesn't work?" "We don't have a choice," Jace replied, determination burning in his eyes. "We need to try." With the growls drawing closer, Liam nodded, steeling himself for the task ahead. They moved cautiously towards the tree, every step calculated to avoid making noise. The creature's growls echoed behind them, a reminder of the danger lurking in the shadows. As they reached the tree, Liam's heart raced at the sight of the twisted roots that formed a natural circle around the base. It felt both inviting and foreboding, as if the tree itself was alive and aware of their presence. Jace pulled out the journal, flipping through the pages until he found the passage detailing the ritual. "Here it is," he said, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "We need to chant this incantation while placing our hands on the tree." "Will it really work?" Liam asked, glancing back at the darkness that threatened to engulf them. "We have to believe it will," Jace said firmly. "We can't let fear take over." They positioned themselves in front of the tree, kneeling on the cool earth. Liam took a deep breath, steadying himself as Jace began to read the incantation aloud. The words flowed from his lips like an ancient melody, resonating with the very air around them. As Jace spoke, Liam placed his hands on the tree's rough bark, feeling a surge of energy pulse through him. The world around them began to shift, the shadows seeming to recede as a soft light enveloped them. Liam closed his eyes, focusing on the baby, feeling her warmth and innocence. He whispered a silent prayer, hoping that they could escape the darkness that threatened to consume them. Suddenly, a bone-chilling roar echoed through the clearing, and the ground trembled beneath them. The creature was drawing near, its presence overwhelming. Liam's heart raced, fear clawing at him as he clutched the baby tighter. "Keep going," he urged Jace, who continued to chant with fervor. As the final words escaped Jace's lips, the air around them crackled with energy. The tree glowed brightly, illuminating the clearing with a warm light that pushed back the encroaching shadows. The roar of the creature turned into a shriek, the sound filled with rage and desperation. Liam opened his eyes just in time to see the figure stumble back, as if repelled by an unseen force. The glow from the tree intensified, casting away the darkness that had threatened to swallow them whole. "Liam, focus," Jace shouted, his voice strong and commanding. Liam's fear began to fade, replaced by a surge of determination. He reached out, placing his hands firmly on the tree as he whispered words of his own. The connection between them felt alive, pulsing with energy, and he could feel the power of the woods awakening around him. With one final surge of energy, the creature let out a deafening roar and vanished into the shadows, as if the very essence of the woods had consumed it. The clearing fell silent, the glow from the tree slowly fading as they emerged from the confrontation. Panting heavily, Jace turned to Liam, a mix of relief and disbelief washing over him. "Did it work?" "I think so," Liam replied, still catching his breath. "But we can't let our guard down. It could come back." Jace nodded, his expression serious. "We need to stay vigilant. There's still a lot we don't understand." As they gathered themselves, the baby stirred slightly, her soft coos breaking the heavy silence. Liam gently rocked her in his arms, grateful that she remained unharmed. "We need to find shelter," Jace said, scanning the darkened woods. "Somewhere safe until we can figure out our next move." "Where do we go?" Liam asked, his heart still racing. "There's an old ranger station not far from here," Jace replied, determination returning to his voice. "It's abandoned, but should offer us some protection." Liam nodded, ready to follow Jace's lead. The woods around them still felt alive with the echoes of the encounter, but he could also feel a sense of hope beginning to bloom within him. They had faced darkness and survived. Together, they would uncover the secrets of these woods and protect the innocent life they had sworn to defend. As they made their way through the trees, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only just beginning, and the shadows of fear still lingered in the depths of the forest. The moon hung high in the sky as Liam and Jace navigated through the underbrush, the soft rustle of leaves their only company. Each step felt heavier as the weight of the woods pressed down around them, memories of the creatures still fresh in their minds. They had escaped for now, but a sense of unease lingered in the air, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next moment of danger. As they approached the old ranger station, the structure came into view, a weathered building sagging under the weight of time. Vines snaked up its walls, and the windows were dark, reflecting the moonlight like empty eyes. The surrounding trees stood like sentinels, keeping watch over the abandoned space. "Here it is," Jace said, gesturing to the entrance. "We should be able to find supplies inside." Liam nodded, still cradling the baby, whose quiet coos reassured him amidst the tension. They moved toward the door, its paint peeling and wood creaking in protest as Jace pushed it open. A gust of stale air greeted them, carrying the scent of damp wood and decay. "Stick close," Jace whispered, stepping inside and scanning the dimly lit interior. "We don't know what we might find in here." Liam followed, his eyes adjusting to the darkness. The ranger station was a time capsule of forgotten days, with dusty furniture strewn about, maps pinned to the walls, and remnants of past lives scattered across the floor. It was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that amplified the sound of their footsteps. "Look for anything useful," Jace instructed, moving toward a desk cluttered with papers. "We need food, water, anything that can help us." As Liam began to search through the room, he felt a chill sweep over him. The baby stirred slightly, her gaze drifting around the room, as if sensing the same presence that weighed heavily on Liam's heart. He forced himself to focus, rifling through a cupboard filled with old supplies. "Hey, I found some canned food," Jace called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. "And look, water bottles too." Relief flooded through Liam. They had managed to find supplies, a small victory amidst the chaos. But as he turned to face Jace, he caught sight of a newspaper clipping pinned to the wall, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. Curiosity piqued, Liam stepped closer to inspect it. The headline read, "Mysterious disappearances continue in the woods." His heart sank as he scanned the article, detailing a string of missing persons cases that had plagued the area for years. Each name was accompanied by a photograph, faces frozen in time, all last seen near the very woods they had just escaped. "Liam, come check this out," Jace called, interrupting his thoughts. He gestured toward a large map spread out on the table, marked with various symbols and notes. "I think this might be important." Liam tore himself away from the article and joined Jace at the table. The map was dotted with markings, some resembling trails, others indicating points of interest. There were also scribbled notes in the margins, details about sightings of strange creatures and unexplained phenomena. "What do you think this is?" Liam asked, his brow furrowing as he studied the map. "I think it's a record of everything that's happened in these woods," Jace replied, tracing a finger along one of the marked paths. "Look here. This line leads to a cave system. It could be where the creature came from." Liam felt a shiver run down his spine at the thought. "You think it's hiding in there?" "Possibly," Jace said, his expression growing serious. "If we want to understand what's happening, we might have to investigate that cave." As they pored over the map, the silence of the ranger station grew heavier, almost suffocating. Liam's instincts flared, and he glanced back at the doorway, sensing that they were not alone. "Did you hear that?" Liam whispered, his heart racing. "Hear what?" Jace replied, glancing up from the map. "It sounded like footsteps," Liam said, straining to listen. The creaking of the old building seemed to come alive, shadows dancing in the corners of his vision. "We should hurry. Let's grab what we can and get out of here," Jace agreed, his voice tense. They quickly stuffed supplies into their bags, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Just as they finished packing, a loud thud echoed from the back of the building, followed by the unmistakable sound of something, or someone, moving through the shadows. Liam's breath hitched in his throat as he exchanged a panicked glance with Jace. "Hi," Jace whispered urgently, leading them behind a nearby shelf stacked with old equipment. They crouched low, hearts pounding, listening intently as the footsteps grew louder. "What if it's the creature?" Liam murmured, clutching the baby protectively. "Just stay quiet," Jace replied, his eyes darting around for any potential escape routes. "We'll figure it out." The footsteps grew closer, heavy and deliberate, until they stopped just outside their hiding place. Liam held his breath, his mind racing as he imagined the worst. He could feel the baby's small body tense against him, sensing the danger surrounding them. Moments stretched into what felt like eternity as they waited, the silence amplifying the thudding of their hearts. Just when Liam thought he couldn't bear it any longer, the figure stepped into view, a man dressed in rugged outdoor gear, his face etched with concern. "Is anyone here?" the man called out, his voice steady. "I mean no harm." Liam blinked in surprise, his heart racing from fear to confusion. "Who are you?" he called back, cautious yet desperate for answers. "I'm Eric," the man replied, stepping further into the dim light of the ranger station. "I've been searching for anyone who might be lost in these woods. I know how dangerous it can be out here." Jace exchanged a look with Liam, uncertainty written on their faces. "Dangerous? You have no idea," Jace replied, stepping out from behind the shelf. Liam followed suit, still cradling the baby. "We just encountered something terrifying." Eric's expression turned serious, concern etching deeper lines on his face. "You're not the first to say that. There have been stories, rumors about a creature that haunts these woods, but I thought they were just legends." "They're not," Liam said, feeling a surge of urgency. "We saw it, and it chased us here." "Is it still nearby?" Eric asked, his voice lowering to a whisper. "We don't know," Jace admitted, "but we can't stay here. We need to figure out how to stop it." Eric nodded, his eyes scanning the map still laid out on the table. "You found this?" he asked, gesturing to the markings. "It could help us understand what we're dealing with." "Yeah," Liam said, stepping closer to the table. "It leads to a cave system that might be the creature's lair." Eric's eyes lit up with determination. "Then we need to go there. It's the only way to confront this thing before it takes more lives." The three of them exchanged looks, a silent agreement passing between them. They had come too far to turn back now. With the weight of the unknown looming ahead, they grabbed their supplies and prepared to leave the safety of the ranger station behind. As they stepped out into the cool night air, Liam felt a mix of trepidation and resolve. The woods whispered around them, the shadows shifting as they made their way toward the cave. They would face the darkness head-on and uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the heart of the forest. The forest was alive with sounds as Liam, Jace, and Eric ventured deeper into the woods, their flashlights slicing through the thick darkness. The path they followed wound like a serpent, twisting through gnarled trees and thick underbrush. Liam held the baby close, feeling her warmth against him, a constant reminder of why they had to face this unknown terror. "Are we sure this is the right way?" Jace asked, glancing at the map in Eric's hands. "It's hard to tell in the dark. We have to trust it," Eric replied, his voice steady despite the palpable tension in the air. "This map has marked trails that lead to the cave system. We just need to stick together and stay alert." The atmosphere thickened as they walked, a heavy weight pressing down on them. The trees seemed to close in, their branches like fingers reaching out, brushing against the light. An unsettling silence wrapped around them, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of an owl. "I can't shake this feeling that we're being watched," Liam murmured, his instincts on high alert. Jace nodded, his expression grim. "Me too. We need to move faster." As they picked up their pace, a low growl echoed through the trees, sending chills down their spines. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard, deep, menacing, and filled with a primal hunger. "What was that?" Eric whispered, his eyes wide with fear. "Whatever it is, it's close," Liam replied, feeling the baby stir uneasily in his arms. "We have to keep moving." They hurried along the path, but the growling followed them, growing louder and more insistent. The hairs on the back of Liam's neck stood up as they rounded a bend and came face to face with a sheer cliffside. "This isn't on the map," Eric said, frowning as he scanned the area. "We must have taken a wrong turn." Liam's heart raced as he peered over the edge. Below lay a dark chasm that seemed to swallow the light. "We can't go back," he said, panic creeping into his voice. "We need to find another way down." "Look!" Jace pointed toward a narrow ledge that spiraled down the cliffside. "We could take that path. It might lead us to the cave." Without hesitation, they moved toward the ledge, careful not to look down into the abyss. The rocks were slick with moisture, and each step required focus and caution. Liam could feel the weight of the baby growing heavier in his arms, but he refused to let fear overtake him. As they descended, the growling intensified, echoing off the rocks and reverberating in Liam's chest. "We're running out of time," he said, urgency driving him forward. "We need to hurry." The ledge twisted and turned, and just as they thought they had reached a safe point, a sudden rush of wind blew past them, sending loose stones tumbling into the darkness below. "Go! Go!" Jace shouted, urging them onward. They picked up their pace, adrenaline fueling their descent. Finally, they reached the bottom, where the entrance to the cave loomed ahead, an ominous, gaping maw that seemed to beckon them inside. As they stepped into the cave, the air changed dramatically. It was cold and damp, a stark contrast to the humid forest outside. The sound of dripping water echoed in the darkness, creating an eerie rhythm that matched the beating of their hearts. "Stay close," Eric instructed, pulling out a flashlight and illuminating the cave's interior. Stalactites hung from the ceiling like jagged teeth, and shadows danced along the walls. "What if it's in here?" Liam whispered, fear gnawing at him. "Then we'll face it together," Jace said, determination hardening his voice. "We have to find out what's going on. For the baby." As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon strange markings on the cave walls, symbols that looked ancient and foreign. Liam felt a shiver run down his spine, a sense of foreboding creeping in as he studied the drawings. "What do you think these mean?" Jace asked, tracing his fingers over the symbols. "They could be warnings," Eric replied, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Or maybe they're connected to whatever is living here." Before they could delve deeper into the meaning of the markings, a low growl echoed from within the darkness of the cave. It was closer now, more menacing, and it sent a jolt of fear through Liam. "Let's move," he urged, picking up the pace as the growl transformed into a series of guttural snarls, resonating through the cave. Suddenly, a figure burst from the shadows, massive and terrifying, with glowing eyes that pierced the darkness. The creature stood before them, a grotesque blend of animal and something far more sinister. Its breath came in ragged huffs, and it exuded an aura of primal rage. "Run!" Eric shouted, instinctively grabbing Jace and Liam by the arms as they turned to flee deeper into the cave. Panic surged through them as they sprinted away from the creature, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Liam clutched the baby tightly, his heart racing, feeling every beat in sync with the urgency of their escape. The growls of the creature chased them through the winding passages, growing fainter as they dove into a narrow tunnel. But Liam knew they couldn't stop yet. They needed to find a place to regroup and figure out their next move. After what felt like an eternity of running, they finally came upon a small chamber, its walls lined with rocks and sparse vegetation. They collapsed against the wall, panting heavily, their breaths mingling with the cold, damp air. "We need a plan," Jay said, still gasping for breath. "That thing is hunting us." Liam nodded, his mind racing as he glanced at the baby, who had fallen silent in his arms. "We can't let it find us again. We have to outsmart it." Eric leaned against the wall, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "What if we use the symbols on the walls? They might hold some clues about the creature." Liam considered this, his heart still racing. "Let's take a closer look. Maybe they'll tell us how to deal with it." As they examined the symbols in the dim light, a glimmer of hope began to bloom within Liam. They had survived the first encounter, and together, They would uncover the truth behind the creature that haunted these woods. The small chamber felt like a sanctuary amidst the chaos of the cave. Liam, Jace, and Eric gathered around the wall, the strange symbols etched into the stone glowing faintly in the dim light. As their eyes adjusted, they could see the intricate patterns intertwined, each line telling a story that had long been forgotten. "Look at this one," Jace said, pointing to a symbol that resembled a crescent moon with a series of dots around it. "It looks like it could represent phases. Maybe something to do with the creature's cycle? Or it could indicate times when it's most active," Eric suggested, tracing the symbol with his finger. "If we can figure out when that is, we might be able to plan our next move." Liam felt a surge of determination. "Let's keep looking for more clues. There must be a way to understand what we're dealing with." They began to explore the chamber more thoroughly, inspecting the walls for any signs of meaning. As they worked, the tension began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of purpose. Each symbol they uncovered brought them closer to unraveling the mystery of the creature. "Over here," Eric called out, excitement lacing his voice. He pointed to a larger symbol that depicted a creature resembling the one they had encountered, though it appeared less menacing in the drawing. Instead, it was surrounded by a circle of light. "This must represent something significant," Eric mused. "Maybe it signifies a protector or guardian of the forest." "What if this creature is not just a monster?" Jace speculated. "What if it's something more complex? Perhaps it's been misunderstood?" Liam considered this, his mind racing. If it's a guardian, then maybe there's a reason it's been aggressive. Could it be protecting something? They shared contemplative glances, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fall into place. The woods held more than just darkness. They were alive with secrets and untold stories. Just then, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, shaking the ground beneath them. Liam's heart raced as they looked at one another in alarm. "We need to move now," he urged, fear creeping back into his voice. The creature could be regrouping. With urgency, they made their way back through the narrow tunnel, moving cautiously but quickly. As they entered the larger cavern, the oppressive silence returned, but there was no sign of the creature. They had temporarily escaped its grasp, but Liam knew it wouldn't be long before they faced it again. "Where do we go from here?" Jace asked, glancing nervously around the expansive cave. "We can't just wander aimlessly. There should be more paths that connect to this one," Eric said, his flashlight scanning the walls for any sign of an exit. "We need to find another route, one that leads away from the creature." As they moved deeper into the cave, they stumbled upon another chamber, this one filled with remnants of past explorers. Old gear lay scattered on the floor, backpacks, climbing equipment, and torn maps. Liam's stomach twisted at the thought of those who had ventured here before them, perhaps meeting the same fate they feared. "What happened to them?" Liam whispered, his voice barely breaking the stillness. "They must have gotten lost," Jace replied, examining a tattered backpack. "Or worse." Eric knelt beside a faded map, tracing the paths that led through the cave system. "We can use this. It might show a way out or at least guide us to safety." As they gathered the supplies and studied the map, Liam couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled over him. The presence of the creature was still looming, and the woods outside felt like a distant memory. They had entered a realm of shadows, and he feared what awaited them. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them again, this time more violently. The sound of rocks crashing echoed through the chamber, and dust rained down from the ceiling. "Go!" Eric shouted, urgency seeping into his voice. "We need to get out of here." They darted toward the exit, navigating through the debris and fallen rocks. The cave was collapsing, and they could hear the creature's growls echoing in the distance, closer now. "Which way?" Liam shouted, panic rising as they reached a fork in the tunnel. "Left," Jace yelled, grabbing Liam's arm and pulling him toward the opening. They hurried down the narrow passage, the walls pressing in around them, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The growling grew louder, reverberating off the walls like thunder. Liam felt the baby tremble against him, and he instinctively held her tighter, desperate to protect her from the chaos. "Keep moving," Eric urged, determination etched on his face. "We can't stop now." As they ran, the darkness enveloped them, but they pressed on, fueled by a mixture of fear and determination. Just when they thought they would be swallowed by the cave, they burst into another chamber, this one illuminated by an otherworldly light. Liam halted, his breath caught in his throat. Before them lay an underground lake, its surface shimmering with ethereal luminescence. The air was thick with an ancient energy, and the walls were adorned with even more symbols, this time depicting the cycle of life and nature. "What is this place?" Jace whispered, or replacing their panic. "I think it's a sacred site," Eric said, stepping closer to the water's edge. "Maybe this is the heart of the forest, the source of its magic." As they stood in wonder, the growling faded into the background, replaced by the gentle lapping of water against the shore. Liam could feel a sense of calm washing over him, as if the lake was offering them solace. Suddenly, the surface of the water rippled, and something began to emerge. A figure rose from the depths, cloaked in light, radiating an aura of strength and wisdom. "Who dares enter my sanctuary?" The figure spoke, their voice echoing like a melody through the cavern. Liam's heart raced as he realized they were not just in the presence of any creature, but something much greater, a guardian of the woods. "We seek answers," Liam called out, stepping forward despite the fear coursing through him. "We are trying to protect the innocent. There's a creature terrorizing the forest." The figure studied them, their expression unreadable. "You have awakened ancient truths, but to confront the darkness, you must first understand its nature." "Please," Jace pleaded, desperation in his eyes. "We need to know how to stop it before it claims more lives." The guardian gestured toward the lake, the surface shimmering as images began to unfold. Liam watched in awe as scenes from the past played before them, of the creature before it had become a threat, its role as a protector twisted by fear and misunderstanding. "You are not its enemies," the guardian said, their voice softening. "You are the light it has long forgotten. To restore balance, you must forge a bond." Liam felt a sense of clarity wash over him. They were not just fighting a monster. They were confronting the fear that had led to its aggression. "How can we do that?" he asked, urgency returning to his voice. "Listen to its cries," the guardian instructed. "Embrace the spirit of the forest, and the creature will reveal its truth." With that, the figure began to dissolve back into the water, leaving Liam, Jace, and Eric standing in awe. The lake shimmered before them, and they could feel a profound connection to the forest, the very life force of nature itself. "We have to go back," Liam said, determination igniting within him. "We have to confront the creature, but this time, we'll do it with understanding." With a new sense of purpose, they turned away from the lake, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The woods still held danger, but now they had a path forward, a way to bridge the divide between fear and understanding. With newfound determination, Liam, Jace, and Eric made their way back through the cave, their hearts pounding with both fear and anticipation. The Guardian's message echoed in Liam's mind, listened to its cries, and he clung to that hope as they prepared to confront the creature that had haunted them. As they stepped back into the cavern where they had first encountered the growling beast, the atmosphere felt charged with tension. Shadows flickered around them, and the distant sound of dripping water mingled with the low growl that reverberated through the cave. "Are we ready for this?" Jace asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have to be," Liam replied, gripping the baby tightly. "We need to show it that we mean no harm." With Eric leading the way, they stepped cautiously into the open space, scanning the shadows for any sign of the creature. Just then, a massive shape emerged from the darkness, its glowing eyes locking onto them with a ferocity that sent a shiver down Liam's spine. "There it is," Eric shouted, stepping back instinctively. "Wait," Liam called out, raising his hand to stop them. "We need to stay calm." The creature advanced, its growl rumbling through the cave, but instead of reacting with fear, Liam took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We're not here to hurt you," he shouted, his voice steady but firm. The creature halted, its ears twitching as if it were considering Liam's words. He could see the muscles in its powerful frame tense, but something in its posture shifted, a hint of uncertainty flickering in its gaze. "Please listen to us," Liam continued, lowering his voice. "We're trying to understand. We know you're protecting something. We want to help." To Liam's surprise, the creature tilted its head, as if contemplating his plea. The growl subsided into a low whimper, and it took a cautious step back, its luminous eyes searching their faces. "Do you see it?" Jace murmured, awestruck. "It's responding." Liam could feel a spark of hope igniting within him. "Show us your truth," he urged. "Let us help you." The creature seemed to understand, its demeanor shifting from aggression to curiosity. It lowered its massive head, and as it did, the tension in the air began to dissipate. Suddenly, the growling transformed into a series of mournful howls, echoing through the cavern. The sound reverberated off the walls, creating a haunting melody that resonated with the very essence of the forest. Liam could feel the energy in the cave shift, as if the creature was sharing its sorrow and pain. "What's happening?" Jace asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's trying to communicate," Liam replied, his heart racing. "We need to listen." As the howls continued, visions began to flood Liam's mind, flashes of the creature's past. He saw it as a young cub, playing among the trees, innocent and free. Then, the images shifted to darkness, the forest being cut down, the cries of its kin echoing in the night. The creature had been left alone, driven by fear and anger, becoming the very monster that had terrified the forest. Liam felt tears prick his eyes as he understood the creature's plight. "You were protecting your home," he whispered, compassion flooding his heart. "We're not your enemies." As if sensing his empathy, the creature's howls softened, becoming a mournful song that seemed to intertwine with the very fabric of the cave. The shadows around them began to shimmer, revealing more symbols on the walls. Stories of the forest's history, of harmony and conflict, of the delicate balance that had been disrupted. Together, Liam urged, turning to Jace and Eric. "We have to show we want to restore that balance." "Right," Eric said, stepping forward with conviction. "We can help you, but we need to work together." Liam felt a surge of energy as they formed a united front, standing side by side before the creature. "We will protect your home," he vowed, his voice echoing with resolve. "We will bring the forest back to life." As if acknowledging their promise, the creature took a tentative step closer, its eyes softening. The howling faded into a gentle rumble, and in that moment, the bond between them grew stronger, a connection forged through understanding and compassion. Suddenly, the cave trembled, but this time it felt different. The ground shook, as if the very heart of the forest was responding to their declaration. The creature began to glow, its form radiating warmth and light, and Liam felt a wave of energy wash over him. In a flash, the creature lunged forward, and Liam braced himself, expecting a confrontation. But instead, it leaned down, gently nudging the baby in his arms. To his astonishment, the baby began to giggle, her laughter echoing in the cavern. "It's okay," Liam whispered, a smile breaking across his face. "It's not a monster, it's a guardian." The creature emitted a low rumble that sounded almost like a chuckle, and in that moment, the connection was solidified. Liam realized they had not only confronted the creature, but had also transformed it back into the protector it once was. "We need to go back to the surface," Liam said, his heart filled with hope. "We need to show everyone that the forest is alive and worth saving." With the creature by their side, they began to make their way back through the cave. The path felt different now, inviting and full of promise. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter as they passed, illuminating the way forward. As they reached the cave entrance, the world outside felt transformed. The forest was no longer a place of fear, but of renewal and life. Liam, Jace, and Eric stepped into the sunlight, the creature following closely behind, its presence now a beacon of hope. Stepping out of the cave felt like emerging from a long, dark tunnel into a sunlit world. The air was fresh and invigorating, filled with the scents of pine and wildflowers. As Liam, Jace, and Eric stood at the cave's entrance, the sunlight bathed them in warmth, and for the first time, they could see the forest not as a source of terror, but as a realm of beauty and life. Beside them, the creature, the guardian, stood tall, its form now glowing softly in the daylight. The energy it radiated felt protective and calming, and Liam couldn't help but smile as the baby cooed in delight, reaching out toward the majestic beast. "What now?" Jace asked, excitement bubbling in his voice. "How do we show everyone what we've learned?" Liam looked at the Guardian, whose eyes sparkled with understanding. "We need to bring the community together," he replied, determination surging within him. "They need to know that the creature is not a monster, but a protector. We can help restore balance in the forest." "Let's gather everyone at the edge of the woods," Eric suggested. "If we can bring them here and show them the Guardian, it might help change their minds." With their mission clear, they set off toward the village, their hearts racing with anticipation. As they walked, Liam could feel the Guardian's presence beside them, a reminder of the transformation that had taken place. When they reached the edge of the woods, they were met with curious stares from the villagers who had gathered, their expressions a mix of skepticism and concern. Whispers floated through the crowd, and Liam sensed the fear lingering in the air. "Liam, is that?" One of the villagers, an older man named Thomas, squinted into the forest. "Is that the creature?" "It is," Liam called out, stepping forward to face the crowd. "But it's not what you think. It's a guardian of the forest, not a monster." Skepticism swept through the crowd like a chill, but Liam pressed on. "We've seen what it truly is. It was protecting its home and its kind when it acted out. But it can also protect us if we allow it." Jace joined in, gesturing toward the Guardian. "We need to work together with it, not against it. The forest is alive, and we can restore balance if we help each other." The murmurs grew louder, filled with doubt. "You can't trust that beast. It's dangerous," another villager shouted, fear etched on her face. "Please," Liam implored, desperation creeping into his voice. "We were all scared, but we faced it and learned the truth. This creature has the power to heal our land, to protect our homes. We can't let fear dictate our actions any longer." Just then, the Guardian stepped forward, its presence commanding attention. With a deep rumble, it let out a sound that resonated through the air, a gentle yet powerful call. The villagers fell silent, captivated by the creature's majesty. "Look!" Eric exclaimed, pointing at the Guardian. "It's showing us it means no harm." The Guardian lowered its head, and in that moment, Liam felt a surge of hope. "We have a chance to protect our home," he said, glancing at the villagers. "If we can come together, we can bring life back to the forest." After a tense moment, Thomas stepped forward, his expression softening. "If you believe it can help us, then we must try," he said, a hint of determination in his voice. The crowd stirred, hesitant but curious. Slowly, others began to nod in agreement, their fear giving way to a sense of possibility. "We'll work together," Jace declared, stepping forward with newfound confidence. "We'll create a sanctuary for the Guardian, for the forest, and for our community." As the villagers began to rally around Liam, Jace, and Eric, the Guardian watched with what seemed like approval. The bond they had formed now extended beyond just the three of them. It encompassed the entire community, united in their shared goal. Days turned into weeks as they set to work, transforming the edge of the woods into a sanctuary. With the Guardian guiding them, they planted trees, cleared debris, and restored the natural balance that had been lost. The forest began to thrive once more, blooming with life, color, and energy. Liam often found himself at the sanctuary, watching his children play near the Guardian, who had become a beloved figure in the community. The once feared creature now stood as a symbol of hope and unity, bridging the gap between humanity and nature. As they worked, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that the Guardian was not just protecting the forest, but also healing the hearts of those who had once feared it. They learned to respect the land and its inhabitants, fostering a connection that deepened with every passing day. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sanctuary, Liam sat on the edge of the clearing, the baby nestled in his arms. The Guardian rested nearby, its eyes watching the world with a calm serenity. "Look how far we've come," Liam said softly, a smile spreading across his face. "We've created something beautiful here." "It's incredible," Jace agreed, joining Liam. "And to think, it all started with a cry in the woods." Maybe that cry was a call to action, Eric suggested, a thoughtful expression on his face. A reminder that we have to listen to the world around us. As they sat together, laughter and joy echoed throughout the sanctuary, the community united in celebration. Liam felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing they had not only saved the Guardian, but had also transformed their own lives in the process. The sun rose on a new day, casting golden rays over the sanctuary that had flourished in the heart of the forest. The once quiet space was now alive with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the rustling of leaves. Children played near the Guardian, who had become an integral part of their lives, embodying the spirit of the forest they had come to love. As Liam stood at the edge of the clearing, he marveled at how much had changed since that fateful day when he first heard the cry of the baby in the woods. The vibrant colors of the flowers and the lush greenery around him felt like a testament to their hard work and dedication. Today was special. They had organized a community celebration to honor the Guardian and their newfound harmony with the forest. Villagers were gathering, bringing food, music, and crafts to share, creating a tapestry of connection that echoed through the woods. "Are you ready for this?" Jace asked, his voice tinged with excitement. "More than ever," Liam replied, glancing at the baby, now giggling in his arms. "This day is for all of us." As the sun climbed higher, villagers began to fill the clearing, their faces bright with joy and anticipation. Liam, Jace, and Eric had prepared a series of activities that would help the community bond with the Guardian and foster a deeper understanding of their shared home. "Let's start with the storytelling," Eric announced, rallying everyone's attention. He stood before the crowd, the Guardian beside him, its presence commanding respect. "We have gathered here today to celebrate not just the forest but also our connection to it," Eric began. "Our Guardian has shown us the importance of living in harmony with nature. Let's share stories of our experiences, of what we've learned, and how we can continue to protect our home." One by one, villagers stepped forward to share their tales. An elder spoke of the forest in its prime, rich with life and wonder, while children recounted adventures they had embarked upon, playing hide-and-seek among the trees. The stories flowed like a river, binding the community closer together. Liam felt a swell of pride as he listened, realizing that the fear that once divided them had transformed into understanding and respect. The Guardian stood tall, its glowing eyes reflecting the happiness of the moment. Next came the art and crafts, where villagers created paintings and sculptures inspired by the forest and the Guardian. They adorned the clearing with beautiful creations that celebrated the very essence of life around them. The air buzzed with creativity, and Liam felt the energy pulsating through the crowd. It was a powerful reminder of how art could foster connections and honor the world they lived in. As dusk began to fall, the villagers gathered around a large bonfire, the flames flickering against the night sky. The warmth enveloped them, creating an atmosphere of camaraderie. Liam stood beside Jace and Eric, the baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Jace mused, gazing at the glowing faces around them. "We've built something incredible." "Absolutely," Liam replied, his heart full. "We've learned to listen, to care, and to protect what matters most." With the fire crackling, they moved to the final part of the celebration, the lighting of lanterns. Each villager was given a lantern, and together they walked to the edge of the forest. "Tonight, we light these lanterns to symbolize our commitment to protect the forest and the Guardian," Liam announced, his voice steady. "Let these lights guide us as we continue to nurture our bond with nature." One by one, they lit their lanterns, the warm glow reflecting in their eyes. As they released them into the sky, a breathtaking sight unfolded, an array of lights floating above the trees, twinkling like stars. Liam felt a sense of connection wash over him, understanding that their journey had only just begun. They had not only saved the Guardian, but had also discovered a deeper purpose: to become stewards of the land, to share their knowledge with future generations. As the last lantern disappeared into the night, the villagers joined together in a song, their voices rising in harmony. The melody echoed through the forest, a promise to honor the land that had given them so much. Standing there, Liam held the baby close, listening to the laughter and music. He knew that their lives had been irrevocably changed, that the forest would continue to thrive, and that they would work together to ensure its future. In that moment, he felt the warmth of the guardian beside him, a silent promise of protection and hope. They had forged a new path, one that celebrated life, connection, and the beauty of nature. The cries that had once echoed through the woods were now replaced with laughter, songs, and a sense of community. And as the stars shone brightly above, Liam realized they were all part of a larger story, one that would continue to unfold for generations to come. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel and like the video for more contents. The sun was setting over the small coastal town of Windermere, casting an amber glow over the quaint houses and the shimmering waves of the ocean. Nathan, a curious 12-year-old with tousled brown hair and an adventurous spirit, loved exploring the nooks and crannies of his hometown. Little did he know that this day would lead him on a treasure hunt that would change his life forever. It all began when Nathan decided to visit his grandfather's attic, a place filled with memories and dust. The attic was a labyrinth of old furniture, cobwebs, and forgotten treasures. His grandfather had always told him stories about the old map that once belonged to a legendary pirate, but Nathan never believed it could actually exist. As he rummaged through boxes, he stumbled upon an old wooden chest, its surface worn and scratched. Excitement bubbled within him as he opened it, revealing an assortment of trinkets, coins, and a rolled-up piece of parchment. Carefully, he unrolled the parchment, his eyes widening as he realized what he was holding. It was a treasure map. The ink was faded, but the outline of the coastline and various landmarks were still visible. Nathan's heart raced as he spotted the large red X, marking a location deep in the nearby forest. He could hardly contain his excitement. This was it, the adventure he had always dreamed of. With the map in hand, he sprinted down the stairs, nearly tripping over his own feet. "Mom, Dad," he shouted, running into the living room where his parents were relaxing. "What's all the fuss about?" his father asked, raising an eyebrow. "I found a treasure map in Grandpa's attic," Nathan exclaimed, holding up the parchment. "Look, it has an X that marks the spot." His mother glanced at the map, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Nathan, treasure hunting is dangerous. You shouldn't go alone." "I won't go alone. I'll take Ben with me," he quickly suggested, referring to his best friend, Benji, a loyal companion who was always up for an adventure. His father chuckled. "All right, but be careful, and be home before dark." With his parents' reluctant blessing, Nathan raced to Benji's house, excitement coursing through his veins. When he arrived, he found Benji in his backyard, meticulously building a fort out of branches and leaves. "Nathan, what's up?" Benji greeted, wiping his hands on his shorts. "I found a treasure map," Nathan declared, nearly bouncing on his toes. "It's got an X and everything. We have to go find it." Benji's eyes lit up. "A treasure map? Are you serious? Let's go." They quickly gathered supplies, a flashlight, a water bottle, and some snacks, before heading toward the forest that bordered their town. The air was thick with anticipation as they entered the woods, the tall trees towering over them like ancient guardians. "Do you really think we'll find treasure?" Benji asked, glancing at the map as they walked. "Of course. This is our chance to have an adventure," Nathan replied, his voice filled with enthusiasm. Following the landmarks on the map, they navigated through the forest, excitement building with every step. They passed by a babbling brook, an old fallen tree, and a clearing filled with wildflowers. But as they ventured deeper, the shadows grew longer, and the atmosphere changed. "Do you think we're getting close?" Benji asked, glancing around nervously. "I think so," Nathan replied, studying the map closely. "We just need to find that big rock formation." As they moved forward, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting eerie shapes among the trees. Nathan felt a thrill of fear mixed with excitement. They finally spotted the large rock formation, just as depicted on the map. "Here it is," Nathan exclaimed, heart racing. "The X should be right around here." They started searching the area, excitement tinged with a hint of anxiety. Nathan's heart raced as he knelt down, brushing aside leaves and dirt. "It's got to be here somewhere," he muttered to himself. Suddenly, Benji let out a gasp. "Nathan, over here. I think I found something." Nathan rushed over to where Benji stood, pointing at a small, weathered box half buried in the ground. It looked ancient, its surface covered in moss and dirt. "Is this it?" Benji asked, eyes wide with wonder. Nathan nodded, his pulse quickening. "This has to be it. The treasure." They worked together to unearth the box, their hands trembling with anticipation. As they finally pulled it free from the earth, Nathan felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. What would they find inside? With the sun hanging low in the sky, Nathan and Benji took a moment to catch their breath, their hearts pounding in unison. The small, weathered box sat before them, shrouded in mystery. Nathan brushed off the dirt, revealing intricate carvings on the lid, swirls and symbols that hinted at stories untold. "Should we open it?" Benji asked, eyes darting between Nathan and the box, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "Of course. This is the moment we've been waiting for," Nathan replied, his excitement overshadowing his apprehension. Taking a deep breath, he carefully lifted the lid. It creaked ominously, as if protesting the disturbance after years of silence. Inside, they found a collection of odd items: weathered coins, a tarnished compass, and a small, tattered journal. The sight of the journal sent a thrill down Nathan's spine. "What do you think all this is?" Benji wondered, peering over Nathan's shoulder. "I think it's the treasure. But look at this journal," Nathan said, lifting the aged book from the box. Its pages were yellowed and fragile, but the handwritten text remained remarkably legible. "Let's see what it says," Benji urged, a spark of curiosity igniting in his eyes. Nathan opened the journal, and the scent of aged paper wafted into the air. The first entry was dated over a century ago, written by someone named Captain Elias McGraw, a name that resonated with tales of adventure Nathan had often heard from his grandfather. "To whoever finds this journal, I leave behind my adventures and the secrets of the hidden treasure. The map leads not just to gold, but to a legacy that must be protected," Nathan read aloud, feeling the weight of the captain's words. "What does that even mean?" Benji asked, frowning. "It sounds kind of serious." "Maybe there's more to this treasure than we thought," Nathan said, flipping through the pages. "Look at this." He wrote about various locations in the forest, detailing the history of each spot. There's something about protecting the forest from those who would exploit it. As they continued reading, they discovered a detailed account of Captain McGraw's life, his adventures, his struggles, and the friendships he forged along the way. Each page revealed a deeper connection to the land and a commitment to safeguarding it from those who sought to plunder its resources. "Wow, this is amazing," Benji murmured, captivated. "It's like we've uncovered a piece of history." "Yeah, but it makes me wonder," Nathan said, looking up from the journal. "What kind of treasure are we really searching for? Is it just gold, or is it something more valuable?" Before Benji could respond, the wind picked up, rustling the leaves above them. A shiver ran down Nathan's spine as he glanced around the forest, the shadows growing longer. "We should probably head back soon. It's getting late." "Agreed," Benji said, glancing at the horizon where the sun was dipping below the trees. "But we can't just leave this stuff here. It's too important. Let's take it all with us. We can figure out what to do next once we're back home," Nathan decided, carefully placing the journal and coins back in the box. He took one last look at the area around them, feeling a sense of connection to the history that surrounded them. As they made their way back through the forest, Nathan's mind raced with possibilities. He had always imagined finding treasure as simply collecting gold, but now he realized it held a much deeper meaning. Once they reached the edge of the forest, they were greeted by the familiar sights of Windmere. The houses stood like sentinels against the twilight, and the ocean glimmered in the fading light. "What now?" Benji asked, looking at Nathan expectantly. "We need to learn more about Captain McGraw and this treasure," Nathan replied, his determination rekindled. "We'll visit the town library tomorrow and dig into the history books. There has to be more information about him and what he was protecting." Benji nodded, excitement bubbling within him. This is going to be epic. As they parted ways that evening, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that their adventure had only just begun. He clutched the box tightly, its weight feeling more significant with each passing moment. The secrets it held were just the beginning of a journey that could change everything. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the dark mystery that enveloped Nathan's mind. He could hardly contain his excitement as he prepared for their trip to the Windermere Town Library. The map, journal, and the strange artifact from the box felt like keys to unlock secrets long buried. After breakfast, Nathan met Benji at the library, where rows of dusty books lined the walls, and the scent of old paper filled the air. "I can't wait to find out more about Captain McGraw," Nathan exclaimed, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Let's head straight to the history section," Benji suggested, leading the way. They wandered through the aisles, searching for any books that might mention the legendary captain or the treasure he was said to protect. After a few minutes of searching, Nathan pulled out a thick, leather-bound book titled Legends of the Coast, Tales of Pirates and Adventurers. "This has to have something about him," he declared, flipping through the pages until he found a section titled Captain Elias McGraw. "Here it is," Nathan shouted, drawing the attention of a nearby librarian. He quickly lowered his voice, his heart racing as he read aloud. Captain Elias McGraw was a notorious pirate who roamed the seas in the early 1800s. Known for his cunning and bravery, he became a local legend in Windermere. His crew was said to have buried a treasure somewhere along the coastline to protect it from rival pirates and greedy treasure hunters. "Wow, he really was a legend," Benji said, leaning in closer to read over Nathan's shoulder. "But why would he leave a treasure map in the forest?" Nathan flipped the page, discovering an entry that piqued his interest. It says here that McGraw had a deep love for the forest and its wildlife. He believed in protecting the land and its natural resources. He left clues not only to lead to treasure, but to teach future generations about the importance of conservation. "Conservation?" Benji echoed, a puzzled expression on his face. "Like keeping the environment safe?" "Exactly. It looks like the treasure wasn't just gold and jewels. It was a lesson for the future," Nathan replied, feeling a sense of purpose grow within him. As they continued reading, Nathan found a passage detailing a specific location, an ancient oak tree known as the heart of the forest. According to the text, this tree was sacred to McGraw and held a clue to the treasure's final resting place. "Look, we need to find this oak tree," Nathan exclaimed, pointing to the passage. "It says it's located near a stream that runs through the forest." "Then what are we waiting for?" Benji said, bouncing on his heels. "Let's go find it." They hurriedly gathered their things and made their way back to the forest, armed with the knowledge they had just uncovered. As they walked, Nathan's mind buzzed with excitement. The idea of protecting the forest, like Captain McGraw, ignited a passion he hadn't fully realized before. "Do you think we'll find anything at the oak?" Benji asked as they navigated through the trees. "I hope so," Nathan replied. "If McGraw left clues, we might uncover more than just treasure. We could learn how to preserve the forest and keep it safe for future generations." After a brisk hike, they reached the bank of the stream described in the journal. The water sparkled in the sunlight, cascading over smooth stones and creating a soothing melody. Nathan scanned the area, searching for the massive oak tree. "There it is," Benji pointed excitedly, his voice breaking the tranquility of the forest. The ancient oak stood tall and proud, its gnarled branches reaching toward the sky, offering a sense of timelessness and wisdom. As they approached the tree, Nathan felt a wave of reverence wash over him. "This tree is incredible," he whispered, tracing the rough bark with his fingers. They circled the tree, searching for anything that might resemble a clue. As they rounded the trunk, Nathan noticed a hollow space at the base of the tree. "Look," he exclaimed, kneeling down to examine it closely. Inside the hollow, partially hidden by dirt and leaves, lay another small wooden box, much like the one they had found before. "Do you think it's more treasure?" Benji asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "Only one way to find out," Nathan said, gently removing the box from its resting place. It felt heavier than the last one, and he could barely contain his anticipation. With careful hands, he opened the lid. Inside lay a collection of beautifully crafted wooden tokens, each adorned with symbols reminiscent of the carvings on the first box. Tucked beneath the tokens was another journal, this one newer, its leather cover embossed with intricate designs. "This must be another journal," Nathan said, his heart racing. He lifted it out, noticing the first few pages were blank. Maybe it's a continuation of Captain McGraw's story. As he flipped through the pages, Benji leaned in closer. What does it say? The first entry is dated a few years after the last journal. Nathan read aloud. I found this tree to be a sanctuary, a place where the whispers of the past guide the future. The forest has become a part of me, and I will do everything in my power to protect it. Wow, Benji said, awe evident in his voice. It sounds like he took his mission seriously. Nathan nodded, continuing to read. He mentions a hidden cave that contains not just gold but the true essence of what it means to protect the land. The last page hints at the location of this cave. Where is it? Benji asked, leaning closer, eager to know what lay ahead. Nathan flipped to the last entry, a sense of urgency growing in him. It says to look for the whispering stones by the cliffside at the edge of the forest. The cave lies behind them. Then we have to go, Benji urged, practically bouncing with excitement. Let's find this cave and see what it holds. As they left the ancient oak behind, Nathan felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. This treasure hunt was becoming something greater than he had ever imagined. They were not just searching for riches. They were uncovering a legacy of conservation and connection to the land. With newfound determination, they set off toward the cliffside, ready to discover what awaited them behind the whispering stones. As Nathan and Benji made their way through the forest, the sunlight danced through the leaves, casting playful shadows on the ground. The thrill of discovery propelled them forward, their hearts racing with anticipation. They exchanged eager glances, their minds filled with thoughts of the hidden cave and what secrets it might hold. After a brisk walk, they arrived at the cliffside. Towering stone walls loomed above them, rough and imposing, yet beautiful in their natural form. A few yards ahead, Nathan spotted a series of smooth, flat stones nestled at the base of the cliff, partially covered by ferns and moss. These must be the Whispering Stones, he exclaimed. Benji stepped closer, examining the stones. They really do look special. But how do we get to the cave? Nathan studied the area, noticing a narrow crevice between two large rocks. I think we might need to squeeze through there, he said, pointing toward the opening. It looked tight, but manageable. Let's give it a try. Benji nodded, and they approached the crevice. As they maneuvered through the narrow gap, Nathan felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The walls were cool and damp, and he could hear the faint sound of water trickling nearby. Emerging on the other side, they found themselves in a small clearing. The sunlight filtered through the trees, illuminating a hidden oasis of green, with a sparkling stream winding its way through the rocks. But as they ventured further into the clearing, they suddenly froze in their tracks. Before them stood a massive boulder, blocking the entrance to a dark cave. The rock was imposing, its surface rough and uneven, but it wasn't just the boulder that caught their attention. Surrounding the cave were strange markings etched into the stone, symbols that resembled those from the wooden tokens they had discovered. What do you think those symbols mean? Benji asked, stepping closer, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. I'm not sure, but they look like they might be warnings or instructions, Nathan replied, scanning the markings. Maybe they're part of what McGraw wanted to protect. As they examined the boulder, Nathan noticed something glimmering near the base. Look, there's something shiny, he said, kneeling down to get a better view. Benji joined him, brushing away dirt and leaves to reveal a small, brass key. This could be it. Maybe it unlocks the cave, Benji exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. Let's try it, Nathan said, quickly standing up and inspecting the boulder for any keyhole. His heart raced as he scanned the surface, but there was no sign of a lock. Maybe it's on the other side, Benji suggested, his brow furrowing in concentration. Determined, Nathan and Benji worked together to push against the boulder, trying to shift it just enough to get a better look. After several attempts, they managed to slide it a few inches, revealing a small gap behind it. I can see a space back there, Nathan exclaimed. Let's check it out. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, they slipped into the opening. The cave was dark, the air cool and damp, filled with the earthy scent of moss and stone. They switched on their flashlights, illuminating the rocky walls, and their beams danced around, revealing intricate patterns etched into the stone. "Wow, this place is incredible," Benji breathed, awestruck. As they ventured deeper into the cave, they suddenly heard a low rumble, the ground trembling beneath them. Nathan's heart raced as he exchanged alarmed glances with Benji. "What was that?" he asked, voice trembling slightly. "I don't know, but we should move," Benji urged, his eyes wide with fear. They hurried further into the cave, the sound of dripping water echoing off the walls. The low rumbling intensified, and Nathan felt a shiver of dread crawl down his spine. The cave seemed alive, as if it were trying to warn them. Just then, they reached a wider chamber, and their flashlights illuminated something extraordinary. A stone altar adorned with more of the same intricate carvings, along with small offerings, feathers, stones, and even dried flowers. In the center of the altar, they spotted a wooden chest, similar to the ones they had discovered earlier. "This has to be it," Nathan shouted, rushing toward the chest. As he reached for the lid, the ground shook again, and this time, a shower of loose stones tumbled from the ceiling. "Nathan, look out!" Benji yelled, pulling him back just in time. "Thanks, man," Nathan gasped, his heart pounding from the near miss. "We can't let fear stop us. We've come too far, right? Let's get that chest open, but we need to be careful," Benji advised, glancing nervously at the cave ceiling. They worked together to lift the heavy lid, revealing the contents inside. More coins, more tokens, and a scroll rolled tightly. Nathan picked up the scroll, feeling a thrill course through him. This could be the key to understanding everything. He carefully unrolled the scroll, revealing a map marked with symbols and locations. One symbol in particular caught his attention, a large oak tree, just like the one they had visited earlier. "This is a map of the forest," Nathan exclaimed, tracing the lines with his finger. "But why would there be a treasure chest in here?" Benji pondered, glancing around the chamber. "It feels like there's more to this place." As Nathan studied the scroll further, a sudden realization struck him. Maybe this is a safe haven, a place for the treasures McGraw collected to be kept away from those who would misuse them. It's like a sanctuary for the forest. But just as Nathan was about to share his thoughts with Benji, another tremor shook the cave, and the rumbling intensified. Dust fell from the ceiling, and Nathan knew they had to get out fast. "Let's grab what we can and go," Nathan shouted, stuffing the scroll into his backpack along with a handful of tokens. Benji hurriedly gathered coins, shoving them into his pockets. "Now," Nathan urged, pushing through the entrance they had squeezed through earlier. They rushed out just as a loud crash reverberated behind them, followed by a cloud of dust and rocks. They stumbled into the daylight, gasping for fresh air. As they collapsed onto the grass outside the cave, Nathan looked back at the entrance, now partially blocked. "That was too close," Benji panted, his face pale. "But we did it. We found a treasure and a map," Nathan replied, exhilarated. "We're one step closer to uncovering Captain McGraw's legacy." "Yeah, but we need to figure out what all this means before we go back in," Benji said, glancing nervously at the cave. "Let's head back to my place and look over everything. We'll plan our next move," Nathan suggested, his determination renewed. As they walked back through the forest, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The treasures they had found were only the beginning, and the true adventure lay ahead. Back at Nathan's house, the air was thick with excitement and curiosity. They sprawled out on the living room floor, surrounded by their discoveries, a jumble of wooden tokens, coins, and the newly acquired scroll. The map lay spread out between them, its symbols dancing under the warm light of the lamp. "Okay, let's make sense of this," Nathan said, picking up the scroll again. "The treasure isn't just about riches. It's about understanding Captain McGraw's mission and what he valued." Benji nodded, leaning in closer to the map. "So, where do we start?" "Look here," Nathan said, pointing at the large oak tree symbol. "This symbol appears in two places. The oak tree where we found the first box, and here." He traced a line on the map to a different area of the forest. "This other oak is marked with an X. It's a good distance from the first one. Let's check it out," Benji urged, enthusiasm bubbling in his voice. "What if it leads us to another clue?" "Absolutely, but we should be cautious this time," Nathan replied, glancing at the cave map they had just uncovered. If the cave was a sanctuary, we need to be respectful of whatever we find. As they prepared to head back into the woods, Nathan's mom walked into the living room, raising an eyebrow at the chaos. What are you boys up to? We found this treasure map, and we're going to explore more of the forest, Nathan exclaimed, barely able to contain his excitement. Just be careful, okay? The woods can be unpredictable, she said, concern creasing her forehead. We will, Benji promised, and with that, they grabbed their backpacks and headed out again, the thrill of adventure propelling them forward. The forest felt different this time, as if it were holding its breath in anticipation of their next move. The rustling leaves whispered secrets, and Nathan could feel the energy of the trees surrounding them. They arrived at the first oak tree they had visited that morning, its massive trunk standing sentinel against the backdrop of the blue sky. From here, we should head northeast, Nathan said, consulting the map. We'll look for any clues as we go. As they trekked deeper into the woods, they exchanged theories about what they might find. Do you think McGraw left another journal at the second oak? Benji mused. Maybe, or perhaps another artifact. Whatever it is, I'm sure it'll lead us closer to understanding his mission, Nathan replied, scanning the area for any signs of the next oak. After a short while, they came upon a clearing, and there it stood, a grand oak tree, even more majestic than the first. Its sprawling branches stretched wide, and the ground was carpeted with lush green grass. This is it, Nathan exclaimed, his voice echoing in the stillness. As they approached, Nathan noticed something unusual about the base of the tree, a small stone structure encircled by wildflowers. What do you think that is? He asked, pointing. Let's check it out, Benji said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. As they drew closer, Nathan noticed intricate carvings on the stones, reminiscent of those they had found in the cave. The structure seemed ancient and sacred, pulsating with an energy that was hard to describe. Do you think we should touch it? Benji asked, glancing at Nathan, who felt a strange pull toward the stones. I think we should, carefully, Nathan replied, kneeling beside the structure. He reached out to touch one of the stones, and as his fingers brushed against the cool surface, a soft glow emanated from the carvings. What the? Benji gasped, stepping back in surprise. Wait, it's okay, Nathan reassured him, watching as the glow intensified, casting light all around them. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a low humming sound resonated through the air. Then, as quickly as it had started, the glow faded, leaving behind a single wooden token at the base of the structure. Nathan picked it up, examining the intricate carvings that mirrored those they had discovered earlier. What just happened? Benji whispered, still in awe. I think this token is another clue, Nathan said, turning it over in his hand. The symbols danced under the sunlight, and Nathan felt an inexplicable connection to the past. Let's look at it closely, Benji suggested, pulling out the other tokens and laying them side by side. The new token matched the others, but it also had additional markings. Look here, Nathan pointed. This symbol wasn't on the other tokens. It looks like a compass rose. What does that mean? Benji asked, curiosity piqued. It could mean that McGraw wanted to guide future generations, just as he was guided, Nathan mused. Maybe we need to find a specific direction to go next. They pulled out the map once more, Nathan's heart racing. If we follow the compass direction... Wait, Benji interrupted, looking up with concern. Do you hear that? Nathan strained his ears, and faintly in the distance, he could hear the sound of footsteps approaching, accompanied by low voices. We need to hide, Nathan whispered urgently. They quickly ducked behind the oak, hearts pounding in their chests. Nathan peeked around the trunk, and his breath hitched. Two figures, rugged and worn, emerged from the underbrush. Hunters, clad in camouflage gear, their eyes scanning the ground. What are they doing here? Benji whispered, his eyes wide with fear. I don't know, but we can't let them find us. They might be looking for the treasure too, Nathan replied, trying to keep his voice steady. The hunters moved closer, and Nathan's heart raced. He felt the weight of the tokens and the scroll in his bag, and a sense of urgency washed over him. They needed to protect the legacy of Captain McGraw, and the last thing they could afford was for these hunters to discover what they had found. We should wait until they leave, Benji suggested, his eyes darting nervously. As the hunters drew nearer, Nathan could hear snippets of their conversation. We need to find it before anyone else does, one of them muttered. That treasure is ours for the taking. Nathan exchanged a worried glance with Benji. They know about the treasure. We have to get out of here. With their hearts pounding, they quietly retreated behind the oak, moving away from the hunters. As they made their way through the forest, they could still hear the hunters discussing their plans. But thankfully, they seemed oblivious to Nathan and Benji's presence. Once they were far enough away, Nathan exhaled deeply. That was too close, he said, trying to calm his racing heart. We have to be more careful. We can't let anyone else find out about Captain McGraw's legacy. Agreed, Benji said, glancing back toward where they had come from. But we still need to figure out what this compass token means. Nathan nodded, the weight of their discovery heavy on his shoulders. Let's head back home and study everything we have. We need to piece this together before we go any further. As they walked back, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that the hunters were just the beginning of the challenges they would face. The quest for Captain McGraw's treasure was turning into something far more complicated and dangerous. The following day, Nathan and Benji gathered at Nathan's house once again, this time more focused than ever. The morning sun poured through the windows, illuminating the clutter of tokens, the scroll, and the treasure map spread across the dining table. They were determined to unravel the mystery surrounding Captain McGraw and his hidden legacy. I can't stop thinking about those hunters, Benji said, his brow furrowed in concern. If they're looking for the treasure, we might be in real trouble. I know, Nathan replied, biting his lip. We need to be extra careful, but we can't let fear hold us back. McGraw's legacy is too important. Benji nodded, albeit reluctantly. You're right, but we have to figure out what this compass token means. It's our only lead. Let's look for patterns, Nathan suggested, pulling out the wooden tokens once more. They laid them all out, studying the markings closely. The compass symbol stood out among the rest, its significance weighing heavily on them. Maybe the compass can guide us to a specific location, Nathan mused, tracing the symbol with his finger. We need to figure out what direction it points to. Or maybe it's telling us to look in a specific area of the forest, Benji added, glancing at the map. What if we set up a search grid based on the compass directions? That's a great idea, Nathan replied, his excitement rekindling. They quickly drew a makeshift grid on a piece of paper, marking down the various directions they could explore based on the compass. As they brainstormed, the doorbell rang, interrupting their flow. Nathan opened the door to find his neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, standing on the porch with a concerned expression. Hello, boys. I heard you've been exploring the forest. I wanted to warn you about something. What's going on, Mrs. Henderson? Nathan asked, sensing the urgency in her voice. There have been strange sightings in the woods lately, people lurking around after dark. I just thought you should know to be careful, she advised, her voice wavering slightly. Thanks for the heads up, Benji said, sharing a worried glance with Nathan. We've already had some close calls. Mrs. Henderson's eyes widened. Be vigilant, boys. The woods hold many secrets, and not all of them are friendly. With that, she left, leaving Nathan and Benji feeling uneasy. The weight of her warning settled heavily in the room. Maybe we should lay low for a bit, Benji suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. At least until we know more. Or we could go out at night, Nathan countered, a daring glint in his eyes. We could find out who else is out there. If those hunters are out looking for treasure, we need to understand their intentions. Are you serious? That sounds dangerous, Benji exclaimed, looking incredulous. Dangerous, yes, but we need to gather information. We can't let them catch us off guard, Nathan replied, feeling a surge of determination. After some discussion, they decided to go out that evening, armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure. As dusk fell over the town, they crept into the forest, the trees casting long shadows in the fading light. They moved cautiously, staying close to the path they had traveled before. The sounds of crickets filled the air, and an eerie silence settled around them, amplifying their every step. Nathan could feel his heart racing as the anticipation built. Where do you think we should go? Benji asked, glancing nervously around. Let's head toward the clearing near the first oak tree, Nathan suggested. If those hunters are around, That's the best place to catch a glimpse of them. As they approached the clearing, they noticed a flickering light in the distance. Nathan held his breath, motioning for Benji to stay quiet. They crouched behind a bush, peering out toward the source of the light. A small campfire crackled, and Nathan squinted to make out the figures gathered around it. There were 3 hunters, huddled close together, their voices low and urgent. "Did you see that kid earlier? The one who was snooping around?" one of the hunters asked, tossing a twig into the fire. "Yeah, he's been poking around more than he should. We need to keep an eye on him. If he gets too close, we can't let him know about our plans," another replied, his tone serious. "They won't stop until they find it," the third hunter said, his eyes glinting in the firelight. "We need to act fast. I don't want anyone else getting their hands on McGraw's treasure." Nathan's heart raced at the mention of McGraw's treasure. They were clearly after what he and Benji had discovered, and the urgency in their voices sent a chill down his spine. "We need to go," Nathan whispered urgently to Benji. "They're not just after the treasure. They're after us too." As they quietly retreated, Nathan felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The hunters' intentions were far from innocent, and the adventure they had once seen as thrilling was now dangerously close to becoming a nightmare. Once they were a safe distance away, Nathan and Benji stopped to catch their breath, the gravity of the hunters' conversation sinking in. "They know who we are," Benji said, his voice shaky. "What if they come after us?" "We'll outsmart them," Nathan said, determination hardening his resolve. "We can't let them ruin this for us. We need to get back to the map and plan our next steps. We have to stay one step ahead." With that, they hurried back to Nathan's house, fueled by a mix of fear and adrenaline. The world outside felt darker now, the shadows creeping in closer, and the weight of the unknown looming above them. They sat down at the table again, poring over the map and the scroll, a sense of urgency coloring their every move. The thrill of adventure had morphed into something more serious, an unspoken understanding that they were in over their heads. But as Nathan looked at the map, he knew they couldn't turn back now. The legacy of Captain McGraw beckoned, and he would do whatever it took to uncover its secrets, even if it meant facing the dangers that lurked in the shadows. The next day, Nathan and Benji were up early, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. They met in Nathan's garage, armed with flashlights, snacks, and a newfound determination. The map was pinned to the wall, a reminder of their mission. "We need to figure out where that compass points," Nathan said, his finger tracing the symbol once more. "If we can decode that, it might lead us to the next clue, and hopefully keep us ahead of the hunters." Benji nodded, excitement rekindling in his eyes. "What if it points to another place in the woods? We should be ready for anything this time." "I agree," Nathan replied, rummaging through a box to find their old camping gear. "Let's pack the essentials. We'll be in and out before anyone even knows we're there." With their gear packed, they headed back into the woods, their nerves tingling with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The forest felt different today, charged with a sense of purpose and mystery. After retracing their steps to the clearing by the first oak, Nathan held up the compass token, hoping it would offer some guidance. "Based on this, we should head southeast from here," he said, looking at the map. "That's where the compass points." Benji glanced around nervously. "What if those hunters show up? We need to stay hidden." "Let's be quick and quiet," Nathan suggested. They moved stealthily, keeping low to the ground, eyes peeled for any sign of danger. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Nathan felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. The trees loomed taller and denser, creating a canopy that filtered the sunlight into ethereal beams. The forest floor was thick with underbrush, making it difficult to navigate. After walking for what felt like hours, they finally stumbled upon a small creek, its water glistening in the dappled sunlight. "I think we should take a break here," Benji said, wiping sweat from his brow. "We can regroup and check the map." They settled on a flat rock near the water's edge, catching their breath and sipping from their water bottles. Nathan pulled out the map and studied it closely. "According to the compass direction, we should be getting close to another landmark." "What do you think that landmark is?" Benji asked, peering over Nathan's shoulder. "Could be anything, another tree, a rock formation, maybe even a cave," Nathan replied, scanning the area around them. Let's keep an eye out. Just then, Nathan spotted something glinting near the base of a large tree a short distance away. Look, over there, he exclaimed, pointing. Do you see that? Benji squinted, and a look of realization crossed his face. It looks like a chest. They both jumped up, adrenaline surging through them as they approached the tree. Sure enough, nestled among the roots was a small wooden chest, weathered but intact. What if it's another clue? Nathan breathed, excitement bubbling within him. Only one way to find out, Benji replied, crouching beside the chest. They both glanced at each other, hearts racing, before Nathan carefully lifted the lid. Inside lay a collection of old, dust-covered journals and a small, intricately carved figurine that resembled a ship. Nathan picked up one of the journals, its leather cover cracked, but still holding together. This must be McGraw's journal, he exclaimed, flipping it open. As they began to read, the excitement shifted to confusion. The pages contained cryptic notes, sketches of locations, and references to places they hadn't yet discovered. This is amazing, Nathan murmured, scanning the entries. What does it say? Benji leaned in closer. There are references to a hidden island and a final treasure, Nathan read aloud, his brow furrowing. It seems McGraw was searching for something beyond just gold and riches. What do you think he was after? Benji asked, intrigued. Something more meaningful, perhaps. He mentions a map leading to the heart of the forest, Nathan replied, turning the page. This journal seems to hold more secrets than we anticipated. As they delved deeper into the journal, they uncovered passages about McGraw's life at sea, his crew's adventures, and the friendships he forged. Each entry painted a vivid picture of a man who valued more than just treasure. He sought knowledge, connection, and a sense of belonging. This is incredible, Benji said, mesmerized. We're getting a glimpse into McGraw's world. But their moment of discovery was interrupted by a sudden rustle in the bushes nearby. The boys froze, instincts kicking in. Nathan glanced toward the sound, his heart pounding. It's probably just an animal, Benji whispered, but his voice trembled. Maybe, but we should be cautious, Nathan replied, scanning the surroundings. Just as they turned to head back to their hiding spot, the sound grew louder, and out stepped one of the hunters from the night before. Boys, he sneered, a predatory glint in his eye. Didn't think I'd find you here. Panic surged through Nathan, and he quickly shoved the journal back into the chest, closing it just as the hunter approached. What do you want? Benji demanded, trying to sound braver than he felt. I want what you found, the hunter said, advancing on them, his eyes narrowing. You've stumbled into something you don't understand. That treasure belongs to us, and I'm not leaving without it. Treasure? You mean Captain McGraw's legacy? Nathan shot back, his voice rising with determination. We're not giving it to you. The hunter laughed, a dark, menacing sound. You really think you can protect it? You have no idea what you're up against. As the tension hung in the air, Nathan felt a surge of adrenaline. We won't let you take it, he declared, stepping protectively in front of Benji. This is bigger than just treasure. It's about understanding history. Cute words, kid, the hunter taunted, but in the end, it won't save you. He reached into his jacket, and Nathan's heart raced, fearing what was about to happen. Run, Nathan shouted, grabbing Benji's arm as they sprinted away from the chest, darting into the trees. The sound of footsteps echoed behind them, the hunter hot on their trail. Branches whipped at their faces as they zigzagged through the underbrush, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Nathan could hear the hunter's voice shouting obscenities, and he felt a surge of fear and determination. Where do we go? Benji gasped, struggling to keep pace. Follow me, Nathan shouted, leading them toward a thicket of bushes that they could duck behind. They tumbled through, collapsing into a small clearing on the other side. Breathless and terrified, they pressed against the ground, listening intently as the hunter's footsteps grew closer. Where did they go? The hunter muttered, his voice cutting through the tension. I'll find them. I always do. Nathan held his breath, praying they wouldn't be discovered. As the footsteps receded, they exchanged glances, the reality of their situation weighing heavily on them. We need to get out of here, Nathan said, his voice low. If he finds us, we're in serious trouble. Benji nodded, fear evident in his eyes. "But what about the chest? We can't just leave it." "We'll come back for it," Nathan insisted. "Right now, we need to focus on getting to safety." Carefully, they crawled away from the clearing, moving silently through the underbrush. As they reached the edge of the forest, they finally spotted a familiar path leading back toward Nathan's neighborhood. They dashed down it, hearts racing, not stopping until they reached Nathan's house. Once inside, they locked the door and collapsed against it, gasping for breath. The fear of the hunter lingered, but the thrill of their discoveries pushed them to keep moving forward. "Did you see his face?" Benji exclaimed, laughter mixed with nerves. "He really thought he could intimidate us." "We're not just any kids," Nathan replied, a grin breaking through. "We're the guardians of McGraw's legacy." But even as they celebrated their narrow escape, a shadow loomed over them. They knew the hunt was far from over, and the treasure they sought was now entangled with danger beyond what they had imagined. The days that followed were a blur of excitement and anxiety for Nathan and Benji. They remained in a heightened state of alert, aware that the hunter was still after them. The journal, now a symbol of their adventure, rested in Nathan's bedroom, its pages filled with secrets and dangers that could not be ignored. Despite the fear, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of a major breakthrough. The journal spoke of a hidden island, and the two boys were determined to uncover its location before the hunter did. "We have to go back into the woods," Nathan said one afternoon as they huddled in his room, poring over the journal. "We can't let him get to the treasure first." "But what if he's waiting for us?" Benji asked, biting his lip. "What if he's got more guys with him?" Nathan paused, considering Benji's concern. "We'll have to be careful, but we can't let fear stop us from discovering what McGraw intended for us to find. We owe it to him." After a moment, Benji nodded. "Okay, let's do this." They decided to head back to the creek where they found the chest, believing it might offer more clues about the hidden island. Equipped with flashlights, snacks, and the journal, they set out once more into the depths of the forest, their hearts pounding with a mixture of trepidation and excitement. As they approached the creek, Nathan felt the familiar thrill of adventure course through him. "We need to find that landmark," he said, looking at the journal again. "If we can find it, maybe we can uncover the path to the island." The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground as they navigated through the trees. Suddenly, Nathan stopped dead in his tracks. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Benji squinted into the darkening woods, his face pale. "What do you mean?" "It sounds like singing," Nathan replied, straining to hear. The voice was ethereal, floating through the air like a melody carried by the wind. They exchanged puzzled glances, but curiosity quickly overcame their fear. "Let's check it out," Nathan urged, moving cautiously toward the sound. As they crept through the underbrush, the singing grew louder, and they could make out a hauntingly beautiful tune. It seemed to resonate with the very essence of the forest. Just then, they stumbled upon a small clearing, and what they saw took their breath away. In the center stood a woman, her long, flowing hair cascading like a waterfall, illuminated by the soft glow of fireflies. She wore a dress made of leaves and flowers, and as she sang, the very air around her shimmered with an enchanting aura. It was as if the forest itself had come alive in response to her voice. Who are you?" Nathan stammered, unable to take his eyes off her. The woman turned, her gaze piercing and wise. "I am Lyriel, the guardian of the forest," she said, her voice as melodic as the song she had been singing. "And you, young ones, seek the truth that lies hidden within its depths." Benji looked at Nathan, a mix of awe and fear in his expression. "How do you know what we're looking for?" "The forest has many secrets," Lyriel replied, stepping closer. "It knows the hearts of those who tread upon its soil. You have uncovered the journal of Captain McGraw, and you have drawn the attention of those who wish to exploit its power." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. "The hunter, he's after the treasure, isn't he?" Lyriel nodded solemnly. "He seeks not just gold, but the knowledge that McGraw buried with it, a knowledge that could destroy the balance of the world." "What do we do?" Benji asked, his voice trembling. "To protect the forest and its secrets, you must reach the hidden island before he does. The path lies before you, but it is fraught with challenges. You will need courage and wisdom. Nathan's heart raced. How do we find the island? Lyriel pointed toward a distant part of the forest. Follow the stream until it meets the ancient stone bridge. Beyond that bridge lies the entrance to the island. But be warned, the hunter will stop at nothing to find you. As her words echoed in their minds, a rustling noise broke the enchanting moment. The hunter's voice carried through the trees, loud and menacing. Boys, I know you're out there. Panic surged through Nathan and Benji. We have to go now, Nathan shouted, grabbing Benji's hand. Wait, Lyriel urged, her voice strong. Take this. She reached into the folds of her dress and produced a small, shimmering stone. It will guide you to safety. Trust in its light, and you will find the strength you need. Nathan took the stone, feeling its warmth pulse in his palm. Thank you, he whispered, before turning to run with Benji. They dashed through the trees, the hunter's shouts echoing behind them. You can't escape me, he yelled, his voice growing closer. The boys raced toward the sound of rushing water, the stream guiding their path. The air was thick with urgency as they leaped over fallen branches and ducked beneath low-hanging limbs. Nathan, where's the bridge? Benji gasped, glancing back in fear. Just a little further, Nathan urged, feeling the weight of their pursuit. Finally, they broke through the trees and found themselves at the edge of the stream. In the distance, the ancient stone bridge loomed, weathered by time, yet resilient. Over there, Nathan pointed, and they sprinted toward it, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they reached the bridge, Nathan turned to see the hunter emerging from the forest, fury etched on his face. You think you can hide from me? He roared, charging toward them. Without hesitation, Nathan grabbed Benji's arm, and they sprinted onto the bridge, the stone beneath their feet echoing with each hurried step. The bridge seemed to vibrate with energy, as if the very essence of the forest was urging them onward. They reached the center of the bridge when Nathan turned back to face the hunter. You won't stop us, he shouted defiantly. The hunter slowed, his eyes narrowing in fury. You think you can protect a treasure that doesn't belong to you? Just then, Nathan remembered the shimmering stone in his hand. He held it up, its glow intensifying as he focused on the hunter. We have the power of the forest with us, he yelled, feeling the light pulse between his fingers. The hunter faltered, taken aback by the light emanating from the stone. What is that? He shouted, fear creeping into his voice. In that moment, Nathan understood that the stone was more than just a guide. It was a manifestation of the forest's magic. He and Benji had been chosen to protect it. This is our legacy, he declared, the stone's glow illuminating the area around them. The hunter hesitated, realizing the strength of their resolve. You'll regret this, he sneered, but Nathan could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Maybe you should turn back while you can, Benji added, stepping closer to Nathan, their combined strength radiating outward. With one last glare, the hunter retreated, disappearing back into the trees. Nathan and Benji exhaled in relief, the adrenaline coursing through their veins. We did it, Benji exclaimed, a mix of disbelief and joy lighting up his face. Not yet, Nathan said, looking out over the bridge. We still have to find the island. As they crossed the bridge, a sense of determination filled them. They were ready to uncover the truth behind Captain McGraw's legacy, and whatever lay ahead could not deter them. They stepped off the bridge and followed the stream, the forest alive with the promise of adventure. Nathan and Benji trudged along the stream, the warm glow of the stone pulsing reassuringly in Nathan's hand. The forest felt alive around them, the rustling leaves and distant calls of wildlife acting as a chorus to their adventure. Each step brought them closer to the mystery of the hidden island and the legacy of Captain McGraw. As they followed the waterway, they recounted the journal's clues, piecing together the map's secrets and the whispers of Lyriel. If we're on the right path, the island should be just up ahead, Nathan said, glancing at the stone, which seemed to be guiding their way. But as they neared a bend in the stream, the atmosphere shifted. A heavy mist began to swirl around them, thickening the air and dampening the sounds of the forest. This doesn't feel right, Benji said, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Just keep going, Nathan urged. though he felt a sense of foreboding creeping in. "We have to find the island." They rounded the bend, and suddenly, the mist cleared, revealing a secluded cove framed by rocky cliffs. The water shimmered under the fading sunlight, reflecting hues of gold and azure. In the center of the cove lay a small, uninhabited island, lush with greenery and glistening under the sun. "There it is," Nathan shouted, excitement bubbling within him. But as they took a step closer, a chilling realization washed over them. Shadows danced at the edges of the cove, and in the distance, they spotted the unmistakable figure of the hunter. He stood on the rocks, watching them with an intensity that sent shivers down Nathan's spine. "Boys," he called, his voice echoing ominously across the water. "You're too late. The treasure belongs to me now." Panic surged through Nathan and Benji. "We can't let him reach the island first," Nathan exclaimed. They quickly formulated a plan. If they could reach the boat hidden in the reeds, they could cross the water before the hunter had a chance to intercept them. "We need to be quick," Nathan whispered, glancing at the hunter, who was now moving toward them with a menacing gait. "On the count of 3, Benji replied, nodding in agreement. 1, 2, 3. They bolted toward the reeds, their hearts racing. The hunter shouted after them, but his voice only fueled their determination. As they approached the small boat, Nathan's thoughts raced. What if they couldn't outrun him? What if he got to the treasure first? They hopped into the boat. Nathan quickly untied the rope as Benji grabbed the oars. "Row! Row!" Nathan urged, feeling the urgency in his chest. As they pushed away from the shore, they heard the hunter roar with frustration. "You think you can escape me? I will find you." His voice echoed through the cove, but Nathan focused on the water ahead. With each stroke, they moved farther away from the danger, but they knew it wouldn't be long before the hunter would pursue them. "Look!" Benji pointed toward the island, now coming into view. "We can make it." The boat skimmed across the surface of the water, and Nathan could feel the adrenaline coursing through him. "We just need to reach the shore," he shouted, urging Benji to row faster. Finally, they reached the island, leaping onto the sandy beach. "We need to find the treasure before he gets here," Nathan urged, scanning the surroundings for any signs that might lead them to it. "According to the journal, there should be an ancient tree near a boulder," Benji said, remembering the clues they had uncovered. "It's supposed to mark the spot." They hurried deeper into the island, the lush foliage closing in around them. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and flowers, and the vibrant colors of the flora contrasted starkly with the tension in their hearts. After what felt like an eternity of searching, they finally spotted the ancient tree. Its gnarled branches stretched out like welcoming arms, and beside it lay a massive boulder covered in moss. Nathan's heart raced as he approached it, feeling an undeniable connection to the location. "There!" Nathan shouted, pointing to a faded engraving on the boulder. It was a map, a replica of the one they had seen in the journal, but with an additional marking, a small X just beneath the roots of the tree. "That is the," Benji said, excitement igniting his voice. They quickly started to clear the area around the tree, pulling away the damp leaves and dirt. Nathan's heart raced with every shovelful of earth they removed, driven by the hope of uncovering the treasure. But just as they were making progress, a loud crashing sound echoed through the woods. The hunter had reached the island. "You can't hide from me, boys," he bellowed, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. "Faster," Nathan urged, panic surging within him. They worked frantically, shoveling dirt away until their hands hit something hard. "Is that it?" Benji exclaimed, excitement lacing his voice as they unearthed a small chest, ornate and covered in intricate carvings. "We found it." Before they could catch their breath, the hunter emerged from the trees, a wild look in his eyes. "Give me that chest," he demanded, his tone dripping with menace. Nathan felt a surge of defiance. "No, this treasure doesn't belong to you." With the chest clutched tightly in their hands, Nathan and Benji stood their ground. "You think you can take what's rightfully ours? You're mistaken." The hunter advanced, his intentions clear. Nathan glanced at the chest, the shimmering stone still glowing in his pocket. "Benji, we need to protect this," he said, taking a step forward. In a moment of desperation, Nathan raised the stone, channeling all his courage. The light expanded, illuminating the space around them and casting away the shadows. The hunter paused, confusion etched on his face. "What is this?" he exclaimed, taking a step back as the brightness enveloped him. "This is our legacy," Nathan shouted, feeling the power of the forest surge through him. "We won't let you destroy it." With a sudden burst of energy, Nathan directed the light towards the hunter, who stumbled back, his resolve faltering. The forest seemed to respond, the winds picking up and swirling around them. As if in a final act of defiance, the hunter turned and fled back into the depths of the island, swallowed by the trees. Nathan and Benji watched as the shadows consumed him, leaving only silence in their wake. "We did it," Benji exclaimed, panting with relief. But Nathan's eyes were fixed on the chest. They had to uncover the truth within it. "Let's see what's inside," he said, kneeling beside the ornate chest. As they opened the lid, the interior gleamed with gold coins and glittering jewels. But more than that, nestled among the riches was a rolled parchment, the true treasure that Captain McGraw had hidden away. Nathan carefully unfolded the parchment, and his eyes widened. "It's a letter. It explains everything. His intentions, the legacy he wanted to pass on." Benji leaned closer, breathless with curiosity. "What does it say?" Nathan began to read aloud, revealing the secrets of the past, the purpose of the treasure, and the warnings McGraw had left behind. They discovered that the true wealth lay not in gold, but in the knowledge and wisdom of the forest, meant to protect its balance and the spirits that dwelled within. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the island, Nathan and Benji realized that their adventure had only just begun. They had uncovered the truth behind Captain McGraw's legacy, and now it was their responsibility to protect it. With the treasure chest open before them, Nathan and Benji felt the weight of their discovery settle over them. Gold coins gleamed in the fading light, but it was the parchment, fragile yet vibrant with history, that captured their attention. Nathan's hands trembled slightly as he held it, aware that they were not just witnesses to a past adventure, but stewards of a legacy that had waited centuries to be uncovered. "Read it," Benji urged, his eyes wide with anticipation. The atmosphere was thick with expectation, the forest around them almost holding its breath. Nathan cleared his throat, the rustling of leaves creating a natural amphitheater for his voice. "To whoever finds this treasure, know that the riches of this world are not measured in gold and jewels, but in the stories we carry, the lives we touch, and the spirits we respect. This island is a sanctuary, a balance of nature and legacy. Protect it, for it holds the secrets of my journey and the guardianship of those who came before me." He paused, the gravity of the words hanging in the air. Captain McGraw left this not just for wealth, but to teach us about the importance of respecting nature and our history. Benji nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "But what about the hunter? He'll come back for this treasure." Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. The hunter was not just an obstacle. He represented greed and destruction, a force that threatened the delicate balance McGraw had fought to protect. "We need to make sure he can't find this place again," Nathan said, determination settling in his bones. They began to gather the gold coins, planning to distribute them to the community in nearby towns. Those who had lost loved ones in the mysterious disappearances, who could use the wealth to build better lives. "We'll use this to create awareness," Nathan said, envisioning a campaign to educate people about the importance of nature conservation and the legends of the island. With the chest mostly empty, Nathan felt a profound sense of responsibility. "We'll build a sanctuary here, where people can come to learn about the forest and its legends. We'll invite them to understand its magic, not exploit it." As they discussed their plans, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows through the trees. They knew they needed to leave the island soon, but the thought of abandoning it felt wrong. "Let's create a map," Benji suggested, pulling out a piece of parchment. "We can mark the locations of the treasures we found, but also the areas that are sacred and must be protected." Nathan nodded in agreement, enthusiasm igniting within him. Together, they sketched out a new map, labeling places with notes about their significance and the stories behind them. As they worked, the atmosphere shifted, a sense of tranquility settling in around them, as if the spirits of the forest were watching and approving their actions. Once their map was complete, they carefully placed the parchment back into the treasure chest, alongside a note of their own. To the next adventurers, protect what you find and respect the past. As twilight deepened into night, the sounds of the forest enveloped them. Crickets chirping, leaves rustling, and the soft gurgle of the stream. It felt like a farewell from the island, a promise of secrets yet to be uncovered and stories yet to be told. "We should head back," Nathan finally said, glancing at the setting sun. "We got a lot of work to do." They made their way back to the boat, the cool night air wrapping around them like a cloak. As they crossed the cove, they looked back at the island, now cloaked in shadows but still radiant in their memories. Once on the mainland, they knew they couldn't just walk away. They needed to bring their discoveries to the townspeople, to share the story of Captain McGraw and the treasures of the island. "We have to inform everyone," Nathan said, a sense of urgency fueling his words. "This place needs protectors, and we're the ones to do it." Back in town, Nathan and Benji rallied support. They shared their adventure, the journal, and the treasures, igniting a spark of interest in the community. Slowly but surely, they built a coalition of adventurers, historians, and environmentalists eager to preserve the island and educate others about its significance. As the days turned into weeks, the island transformed. What was once a hidden treasure became a sanctuary for learning, adventure, and respect for nature. Schools organized field trips, families visited, and legends of Captain McGraw filled the air, inspiring a new generation to care for the world around them. Yet, the hunter never resurfaced. Whether he had truly vanished or simply lingered in the shadows remained a mystery. Nathan and Benji made it their mission to watch over the island, always alert, always prepared to defend its sanctity. On quiet nights, when the stars shone brightly and the moon cast its silver glow over the forest, Nathan would sometimes hear the whisper of the wind, almost like a song, soft, soothing, and filled with the promise of adventure. He would sit by the stream, reminiscing about the day they discovered the hidden island, feeling the weight of their journey, and knowing that their adventure was only the beginning. In that moment, surrounded by the echoes of nature and the legacy they had chosen to protect, Nathan understood that true treasure was not in gold or jewels, but in the stories they carried, the lives they touched, and the beauty of the world they vowed to preserve. And with that, they had truly found their place in the tapestry of legends, woven into the fabric of the island's history, ready to share their journey with the world. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel and like the video for more contents. In a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and sprawling fields, there was a weathered antique shop known as Eleanor's Curiosities. The store was a treasure trove of forgotten relics, each holding a story of its own. From dusty porcelain dolls to tarnished silverware, Eleanor, the shop's owner, took pride in the stories of the past that whispered through her collection. One dreary afternoon, as the rain drummed against the windows, a young girl named Clara wandered into the shop. Clara was known for her curiosity and adventurous spirit, often exploring the nooks and crannies of the town in search of the extraordinary. Today, however, something was different. The air was thick with an unusual tension, and Clara could sense it as soon as she stepped inside. "Welcome, dear," Eleanor said, her voice warm, yet laced with a hint of mystery. "What brings you here on such a gloomy day?" "I was just looking around," Clara replied, her eyes darting over the various trinkets. But then something caught her attention. A dusty toy soldier, sitting forlornly on a high shelf, partially hidden behind a stack of old books. The toy was made of worn wood, its paint chipped and faded. It wore a red uniform with a tiny brass sword at its side. Clara felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as if it were calling her name. "Can I see that soldier?" she asked, pointing at the shelf. Eleanor's eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "Ah, that one. It has a bit of a history. You should think carefully before bringing it home." Clara's curiosity only deepened. "What kind of history?" Eleanor hesitated, glancing around the shop as if expecting someone to overhear. "Legend has it that the toy belonged to a young boy named Oliver many years ago. He cherished it deeply, but after an unfortunate incident, the toy was forgotten and left behind. Since then, strange things have been said to happen around it. What kind of strange things? Clara pressed, her heart racing with excitement. They say it moves on its own at night, Eleanor whispered, leaning in closer. Some claim to hear whispers coming from it, as if the toy holds the secrets of the boy who once owned it. Clara's eyes sparkled with intrigue. I want it, she declared, feeling a thrill of adventure rush through her. Eleanor studied her for a moment, then sighed. Very well, but take care of it, dear. Some things are better left undisturbed. Clara carefully took the toy soldier in her hands, feeling the coolness of the wood against her skin. She thanked Eleanor and hurried home, a mixture of excitement and trepidation bubbling within her. As she entered her small room, Clara placed the soldier on her nightstand, its painted eyes seeming to watch her every move. The rain continued to patter against the window, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the toy was alive in some way. That night, as she snuggled under her blankets, the soldier stood guard, a silent sentinel in the dim light. But as the clock struck midnight, a chilling wind swept through the room. Clara stirred, feeling an unsettling presence. She opened her eyes to find the toy soldier had shifted slightly on the nightstand, its gaze more intense than before. Clara's heart raced as she tried to convince herself it was just her imagination. Stop being silly, she whispered to herself, rolling over to sleep. Yet sleep eluded her as shadows danced along the walls, and an unsettling feeling enveloped the room. Minutes turned into hours, and just as Clara began to drift off again, she heard it, a soft, barely audible whisper. Help me, help me. Clara's eyes snapped open, her heart pounding. Who's there? She called out, her voice trembling. The whisper grew louder, clearer, echoing in her mind. I'm here. I need your help. Clara's breath hitched as she turned to face the toy soldier. Its painted eyes seemed to gleam in the moonlight, and for a moment, she swore she saw a flicker of life within them. What do you want? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The soldier remained silent, but the air around her shifted, and a wave of cold washed over the room. Clara felt drawn to the toy, as if it held the key to an unsolved mystery. With a mixture of fear and fascination, she decided she had to uncover the truth behind the forgotten toy. As Clara's mind raced with possibilities, the whispers continued, intertwining with her thoughts, beckoning her deeper into the mystery. She could sense the urgency, the desperation of the voice that called for her help. But what was she truly getting herself into? Little did Clara know that her adventure was only beginning, and the chilling tale of the forgotten toy would unravel a history she never imagined. The next morning, Clara awoke to the warm rays of sunlight filtering through her window, dispelling the shadows of the night. The toy soldier still stood resolutely on her nightstand, a silent guardian, watching over her. But Clara felt a change in the air, a heavy anticipation that something important was about to unfold. She couldn't shake the whisper she had heard during the night. Help me. The words echoed in her mind, and curiosity gnawed at her. Who was the voice coming from? What had happened to the boy named Oliver? Determined to uncover the truth, Clara decided she would visit Eleanor's shop again. After breakfast, Clara made her way to Eleanor's Curiosities. The streets were bustling with life, but her mind was focused solely on the mysteries of the toy soldier. As she entered the shop, the familiar chime of the bell announced her arrival. Eleanor was busy rearranging a collection of old postcards, but looked up as Clara approached. Back so soon? Eleanor asked, a hint of a smile on her lips. I see you've chosen the soldier. I heard something last night, Clara blurted out, unable to contain her excitement. It whispered to me, I want to know more about Oliver and the soldier. Eleanor's expression shifted, seriousness taking hold. It's not a light tale, dear. Oliver's story is woven with sorrow and loss. Clara felt her heart race. Please tell me. Eleanor sighed, her eyes clouded with memory. Oliver was a bright child, full of dreams. The toy soldier was his favorite companion, his protector. They played together for years until one stormy night, tragedy struck. There was an accident, and in the chaos, Oliver disappeared. The town searched high and low, but he was never found. The soldier was the only thing left behind, forgotten on the shelf of his room. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. But what happened to him? Is he gone? Some say his spirit lingers, Eleanor replied softly. The whispers you hear may be Oliver's plea for help, a call for someone to remember him. It is said that only those with pure hearts can hear him. What can I do? Clara asked, her determination solidifying. The first step is to uncover where Oliver lived and what happened that night. You may find clues in the old town records, or perhaps in the places he loved, Eleanor suggested. But tread carefully. Sometimes the past is best left undisturbed. Clara thanked Eleanor and left the shop, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew she had to find out more. With a plan forming, she decided to visit the local library, a place rich with the town's history and secrets. The library was a stately building, filled with the scent of old books and the promise of knowledge. Clara rushed to the history section, scanning through dusty volumes that detailed the town's past. After a while, she stumbled upon a book titled Lost Souls of Brookshire, which detailed the mysterious disappearances that had plagued the town over the years. As she flipped through the pages, she found a mention of Oliver. A young boy named Oliver Pembroke vanished one stormy night in 1965. His family reported him missing after he failed to return home from playing outside. The search lasted for weeks, but yielded no results. Some believed he was taken by the woods, while others thought he had run away to start a new life. Clara's heart raced. Could the whispers be related to the mystery of his disappearance? Was there something in the woods that held the key to finding him? Determined to learn more, Clara noted the addresses and landmarks mentioned in the book, including Oliver's childhood home, which was said to be located at the edge of the town near the forest. That afternoon, with a sense of purpose, Clara ventured out to the abandoned house, her heart thumping in her chest. The journey took her through familiar streets, but as she approached the outskirts, the atmosphere shifted. The trees loomed taller, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands, casting eerie shadows on the ground. When she arrived at the house, Clara stood before a dilapidated structure, the wooden boards creaking under the weight of time. Vines crawled up the walls, and broken windows stared back at her like hollow eyes. She felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement, as if the very air around her was charged with Oliver's spirit. Taking a deep breath, Clara stepped inside. The air was musty, thick with dust, and the wooden floorboards groaned beneath her feet. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the walls, illuminating fragments of furniture covered in white sheets. She moved cautiously, her heart pounding as she explored the remnants of Oliver's past. In what seemed to be the living room, Clara noticed a small wooden box resting on the mantel. Its surface was scratched and worn, but it seemed out of place amidst the decay. Drawn to it, she approached and opened the box, revealing a collection of old photographs and letters. Among them, one photograph stood out, a picture of Oliver, grinning broadly beside his toy soldier. Clara's heart ached at the sight of the boy's innocent smile. Alongside it was a letter, yellowed with age, that Clara carefully unfolded. "Dear Mom and Dad," it read, "I love my soldier more than anything. He's my best friend. We're going to have the greatest adventures together." Tears pricked at Clara's eyes. She could feel Oliver's spirit, his joy and his longing echoing through the words. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the room, rattling the windows and sending shivers down her spine. Clara looked around, the feeling of being watched intensifying. "Oliver," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Are you here?" As if in response, a soft whisper floated through the air. "Help me, please." Clara's resolve strengthened. "I will help you, Oliver. I promise." With the photograph and letter clutched tightly in her hands, Clara knew she had to dig deeper into the mystery of Oliver's disappearance. The whispers had led her here, and now she was determined to uncover the truth. Clara stood in the dim light of the abandoned house, clutching the photograph and letter, feeling the weight of Oliver's story pressing upon her. The whispers continued to swirl in her mind, urging her to seek answers. Determined, she began to search the house more thoroughly, hoping to find clues that would reveal what had happened to the boy. As she moved from room to room, Clara noticed small details that spoke of a life once filled with joy and laughter. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, remnants of cheerful patterns that had long lost their vibrancy. In one corner, a broken toy chest lay overturned, its contents spilling out like forgotten memories. Dusty building blocks, a tattered teddy bear, and old action figures littered the floor, remnants of Oliver's childhood that echoed through time. In the corner of the living room, Clara noticed a door slightly ajar. With a mixture of trepidation and excitement, she approached and pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The air was cooler here, heavy with a sense of foreboding. Clara hesitated for a moment, but the urge to uncover the truth propelled her forward. Taking a deep breath, she descended the stairs, each step creaking beneath her weight. As she reached the bottom, she found herself in a dimly lit basement. The space was cluttered with old furniture, dusty boxes, and cobwebs that hung like curtains from the ceiling. In the far corner, Clara spotted something glinting, a small object half buried under a pile of debris. Curiosity piqued, Clara made her way over and cleared away the junk. To her surprise, she uncovered a rusty key. Its surface was rough, and Clara felt an inexplicable connection to it, as if it held the key to unlocking Oliver's story. What could you unlock? Clara wondered aloud, turning the key over in her palm. The whispers grew louder in her mind, almost urging her to find out. Determined to follow this new lead, Clara made her way back up the stairs and looked around the main floor, searching for any locks that the key might fit. Her heart raced as she scanned each room, her eyes landing on a small, ornate chest tucked away in a corner of the bedroom. Its intricate carvings depicted scenes of battles and adventure, and Clara could sense that it held something significant. As she approached, Clara noticed a small keyhole at the front. Holding her breath, she inserted the rusty key, and with a gentle turn, the chest creaked open. Inside, she found a collection of items, more letters, a journal, and an assortment of toys. Clara's heart raced as she carefully lifted out the journal, its pages worn and yellowed. Flipping through it, she discovered Oliver's handwritten entries detailing his dreams, adventures, and his deep bond with the toy soldier. "My soldier is my best friend. We go on adventures in the woods," one entry read. "Sometimes I hear strange sounds, but he always keeps me safe." Tears filled Clara's eyes as she read about Oliver's hopes and fears, his longing for adventure tempered by an underlying sense of loneliness. The last entry sent a chill down her spine. "Tonight, I feel something is different. I hear a voice calling to me from the woods. I think I have to follow it." "Oliver, no," Clara whispered, her heart aching for the boy who had followed a voice into the unknown. Suddenly, a soft rustling sound broke through the silence of the basement, sending a jolt of fear through Clara. She turned quickly, her heart pounding in her chest. "Who's there?" she called out, trying to sound braver than she felt. The rustling stopped, and for a moment, all was silent. But then, the whispers returned, clearer now, a chorus of desperate voices blending with Oliver's plea. "Help me, find me." Clara felt a surge of determination. She had to find out where the voice had led Oliver that fateful night. With the journal and the key safely tucked under her arm, she climbed the stairs and stepped outside, the daylight hitting her like a warm embrace. The woods loomed before her, dark and inviting. Clara hesitated for a moment, looking back at the house, the weight of the story she had uncovered weighing heavily on her. But she knew she had to go deeper. The truth awaited her within the trees. As she entered the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The light dimmed as the thick canopy of branches filtered the sun. Clara followed a narrow path, her heart racing with anticipation. The whispers grew louder with each step, guiding her deeper into the forest. "Keep going. You're close," the voices urged. Clara pressed on, her eyes scanning her surroundings for any sign of Oliver. The woods were alive with sounds, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, and the distant sound of water flowing. But amid the beauty lay an unsettling stillness, as if the forest was holding its breath. After walking for what felt like an eternity, Clara came upon a clearing where the sunlight broke through the trees. In the center stood an ancient oak tree, its gnarled roots twisting through the earth. Clara felt drawn to it, an unexplainable connection pulling her closer. As she approached the tree, she noticed a small, weathered object wedged between the roots. Kneeling down, Clara reached out and pulled it free. It was Oliver's toy soldier, its paint chipped but still recognizable. Clara's heart raced. This was the missing piece of the puzzle. "Oliver!" she cried out, the urgency of the situation dawning on her. "Where are you?" The air around her shifted, the whispers intensifying into a cacophony of voices. "Help us, find us." Clara's heart sank as she realized that the whispers weren't just Oliver's. They were the echoes of others who had gone missing in these woods. The weight of their stories pressed down on her, filling her with an overwhelming sense of duty. "Okay, I will help you," Clara vowed, clutching the soldier tightly. "I promise I'll find the truth." But as the whispers faded, an eerie silence enveloped the clearing, leaving Clara alone with her thoughts and the haunting feeling that she was being watched. Clara stood by the ancient oak, the toy soldier in her hand, and determination surging within her. The forest felt alive, a blend of anticipation and dread swirling in the air. She was on the brink of discovering something vital, something that could unravel the mystery surrounding Oliver's disappearance. But she could also sense that danger lurked just beyond her sight. As the sunlight flickered through the branches, Clara made her way back along the path she had come. She knew she needed to retrace her steps, gather her thoughts, and perhaps return home to decipher the journal more thoroughly. However, as she turned to leave, a rustle from the underbrush made her freeze in her tracks. "Hello," Clara called out, her voice trembling slightly. The rustling grew louder, and a shadow flitted between the trees, just out of her line of sight. Her heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of fear and intrigue. Was it Oliver? Or someone else? Before she could react, a figure emerged from the shadows. Clara gasped as a young boy, around her age, stepped into the clearing. His clothes were ragged, and his hair was wild and tangled. His eyes were wide and filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Who are you?" Clara asked, taking a cautious step back. The boy seemed to be just as startled as she was. I'm Ethan," he stammered, glancing around as if expecting someone to leap out from the trees. "What are you doing here?" "I'm trying to find Oliver," Clara replied, the name spilling from her lips instinctively. "Do you know him?" Ethan's expression darkened, and he took a step closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You shouldn't be looking for him. It's dangerous in these woods." "Dangerous? Why?" Clara pressed, her curiosity overpowering her fear. "I heard whispers. I found his toy soldier. I have to help him." Ethan looked conflicted, torn between caution and the urge to share his knowledge. "If you're here to help, then you need to know the truth. Oliver didn't just disappear. He was taken by something that lives in the woods." Clara felt a chill race down her spine. "Taken? By what?" "A shadow," Ethan replied, his eyes darting nervously. "It's been here for years, lurking in the dark places of the forest. It feeds on lost souls, on children who wander too far. When Oliver followed the whispers, it got him." Clara's heart pounded as she recalled the voices urging her to help. "But I heard his voice. I can still hear it. He needs my help." Ethan shook his head. "You can't trust the voices. They play tricks on you. They lead you deeper into the woods, where the shadow waits. I barely escaped its grasp, and I've been trying to warn others ever since." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Clara asked, feeling a surge of frustration mixed with sympathy. "No one believes me," Ethan replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They think I'm just a lost kid, but I know what I saw. If you're not careful, it will take you too." Clara took a deep breath, weighing her options. Should she heed Ethan's warning and retreat, or was there a way to confront this shadow? She remembered Oliver's words in the journal, his bravery and adventurous spirit. She couldn't turn back now, not when she was so close to uncovering the truth. "I need to find Oliver," she said firmly. "I can't leave him behind." Ethan looked pained, and for a moment, Clara thought he might argue further. But then his expression softened. "If you really want to help him, I can show you a way, but you have to promise me you won't go off alone." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "I promise." Together, they ventured deeper into the woods, following a narrow path that Ethan led them down. The air grew colder, the sunlight dimmer as they passed under the thick canopy. Clara's heart raced, a mix of fear and determination propelling her forward. Ethan pointed to a small clearing, hidden behind a cluster of trees. This is where it happened. This is where the shadow took him. As they approached, Clara felt an oppressive weight settle over her. The ground was littered with dead leaves and twisted roots, and the air was thick with tension. In the center of the clearing stood a large stone, weathered and covered in strange symbols that Clara couldn't decipher. "Many say this is a gateway," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible. "A place where the shadow can cross into our world." Clara stepped closer, her pulse quickening. "What do we do?" Ethan looked at her, fear shining in his eyes. "We need to call to Oliver. We have to confront the shadow, but we have to be brave. If it shows up, we have to stick together." Clara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Okay, on the count of 3, we call out for him. Ready?" "Ready," Ethan replied, steeling himself. 1, 2, 3, they shouted in unison. "Oliver!" The clearing fell silent, the air vibrating with anticipation. Clara could feel her heart thundering in her chest. Just as doubt began to creep in, a cold breeze swept through the trees, sending shivers down her spine. The shadows deepened, and the temperature dropped further. "Help me!" A soft voice echoed from the depths of the woods, drawing Clara's attention. "Oliver!" she called out again, her voice ringing with urgency. Suddenly, the shadows around them began to shift and swirl, forming a dark figure that loomed over the clearing. Clara's heart raced, panic setting in as she felt a chilling presence envelop them. Ethan grabbed her arm tightly, fear etched on his face. "Stay close," he hissed. The figure before them was indistinct, a mass of darkness that seemed to pulse and breathe. Clara could barely make out a pair of glowing eyes piercing through the gloom, fixated on her. She swallowed hard, the terror gripping her heart. "Who dares disturb my domain?" The shadowy figure intoned, its voice a low, echoing growl that reverberated through the trees. "Let Oliver go," Clara shouted, her voice shaky but defiant. "He's lost and needs your help." The figure laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent chills down Clara's spine. "Help? He is mine now, forever lost to the shadows." "No," Clara yelled, taking a step forward, fueled by the urgency of her mission. "You can't keep him. He deserves to be free." "Foolish child," the shadow hissed. "You have no idea of the power you're challenging." With a wave of its hand, the shadow unleashed a gust of cold wind that swept through the clearing, causing Clara to stagger back. But amidst the fear, a flicker of hope ignited within her. The toy soldier clutched tightly in her grip felt warm, as if responding to her determination. "Oliver!" Clara cried again, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We're here to save you. Please, if you can hear me, give us a sign." In that moment, a soft light flickered from the direction of the shadow, momentarily illuminating the clearing. Clara squinted against the brightness, and as the light grew stronger, she could see a faint outline of a small boy standing beside the shadow, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. "Clara," the boy's voice echoed softly, barely breaking through the tension. "Oliver," Clara shouted, her heart soaring. "I'm here. We're going to bring you back." The shadow recoiled, a growl rumbling from its depths. "No, he belongs to me." Ethan stood firm beside Clara, holding her hand tightly. "We can't let it win. We need to fight." Clara felt the warmth of the toy soldier radiate in her palm. "Together," she shouted. "Oliver, hold on. We believe in you." The shadow lunged, but Clara and Ethan stood their ground. They channeled their courage and the strength of their friendship, focusing on the bond Clara shared with Oliver, willing it to break through the darkness. "Oliver, come back to us," they cried in unison. With a deafening roar, the shadow surged forward, but as Clara's voice resonated through the air, the light intensified. The boy's figure grew clearer, reaching out toward Clara, his eyes filled with hope. "Help me," Oliver's voice cried out, echoing through the woods. In that moment, the shadow faltered, the light pushing it back. Clara could feel the warmth spreading from the toy soldier, empowering them against the darkness. "Now!" Clara shouted, raising the toy soldier high above her head. "We will not let you take him." With one final surge of energy, the light enveloped the clearing, pushing the shadow away. Clara and Ethan felt the force of the darkness recede, and in its place stood Oliver, his expression one of relief and gratitude. "Clara, Ethan," he breathed, his voice full of emotion. "You found me." Clara rushed forward, enveloping Oliver in a tight embrace, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "We're here. We're going to take you home." Ethan joined them, his face alight with triumph. "You're safe now, Oliver. We won't let anything happen to you again." As they stood together, the clearing began to brighten, the shadow retreating into the depths of the woods, its voice fading into silence. Clara knew they had won this battle, but she also understood that their journey was far from over. The whispers had led her here, and now they needed to find a way out. Hand in hand, the three of them turned away from the ancient oak, the bond they had forged illuminating their path. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, united in their quest to uncover the hidden truths of the woods. As Clara, Oliver, and Ethan made their way back through the forest, a sense of relief washed over them, but it was intertwined with an ever-present unease. They had faced the shadow and emerged victorious, but Clara knew they had only scratched the surface of the mysteries hidden within these woods. Questions swirled in her mind, and she could sense that the journey was far from over. "Do you think the shadow will come back?" Oliver asked, his voice small as they walked side by side. "I don't know," Clara replied, glancing at Ethan. "But we have to be ready for anything. We can't let our guard down." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I've been in these woods long enough to know that shadows don't just disappear. They linger, waiting for the right moment to strike again. We need to uncover the truth before it's too late." As they ventured deeper into the forest, Clara's eyes darted around, searching for anything unusual. The atmosphere was eerily calm, the earlier tension dissipating, but leaving behind a chilling reminder of what they had just encountered. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, creating a patchwork of light and shadow that danced around them. "Look!" Oliver suddenly exclaimed, pointing to a small glade up ahead. "What's that?" In the center of the glade stood a weathered stone pedestal, partially obscured by moss and vines. Clara felt a strange pull toward it, as if it were calling to her. She exchanged glances with Oliver and Ethan, then stepped forward. "What do you think it is?" Clara asked, brushing away the vines to reveal the surface. It was engraved with intricate symbols that seemed to pulse faintly, almost alive beneath her fingertips. "I've seen these symbols before," Ethan said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "They're ancient. They tell the story of the woods, of the shadow that dwells here. But it's more than that. It's a warning." "A warning?" Clara echoed, intrigued. "About what?" Ethan traced a finger over the carvings, his expression grave. These woods were once a sanctuary, a place of peace. But something happened. A darkness crept in, feeding on the fears of those who wandered too far. The shadow was born from that darkness. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. But why did it take Oliver? Ethan hesitated, looking between them. "It targets those who are lost or vulnerable. It thrives on their despair." Oliver was drawn here. "And Clara, you were led by the whispers. It wants to isolate you, to turn you into one of its lost souls." Oliver's eyes widened. "But we're not lost anymore. We found each other." Clara nodded, her determination resurfacing. "We won't let it take us. We need to understand this shadow if we're going to defeat it for good." With renewed resolve, Clara knelt beside the pedestal, studying the symbols more closely. "What do these markings mean?" she asked. Ethan's gaze sharpened as he examined them. "They tell of a ritual, a way to confront the shadow and reclaim what it has taken. But it requires a sacrifice of sorts, a willingness to face your deepest fears." Clara's heart raced. "We have to do it. We have to confront it once more, but this time we'll be ready." "But what if it's too dangerous?" Oliver interjected, worry clouding his features. "What if it takes us again?" Clara reached for Oliver's hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "We'll face it together. I won't let anything happen to you, I promise. We need to show it that we're not afraid." Ethan looked thoughtful, considering their determination. "If we're going to do this, we need to prepare. There might be items in the forest that can help us, objects that hold power against the shadow. We need to gather them before we face it again." "Like what?" Clara asked. "Old charms, Remnants of the past, Ethan replied. Things that hold light and hope. They might give us the strength we need to fight. Determined to gather these artifacts, the trio began to search the glade and the surrounding area, feeling the weight of their mission settle on their shoulders. Clara led the way, her heart pounding with anticipation as they pushed deeper into the woods. As they explored, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced over her shoulder frequently, half expecting to see the shadow lurking behind the trees, but all that greeted her were the ancient trunks and whispering leaves. After some time, they stumbled upon a small, overgrown path that seemed to beckon them forward. Clara could feel a pull, an instinct driving her to follow it. "This way," she called, excitement bubbling within her. The path wound deeper into the forest, surrounded by a dense thicket that closed in around them. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a hidden clearing bathed in a warm, golden light. At its center stood an ancient stone well, its surface adorned with more symbols, shimmering faintly in the sunlight. "Look at that," Oliver exclaimed, rushing toward the well. "What do you think it is?" Ethan approached cautiously. "This well could be a source of power. If we're lucky, it might even hold something we can use against the shadow." Clara felt drawn to the well as she approached it, the air thick with anticipation. She peered over the edge, but the depths remained shrouded in darkness. "What if we could find something inside?" Ethan nodded, reaching into his pocket. "I have a flashlight. We can shine it down and see what's there." As he turned on the flashlight and directed the beam into the well, they all leaned over to catch a glimpse. At first, the light revealed nothing but wet stones, but as it traveled deeper, something glimmered. A small object caught the light. "What is that?" Clara asked, squinting to see better. "I don't know, but it looks like something important," Ethan replied, his voice tinged with excitement. "Let's see if we can retrieve it." Oliver looked nervous but curious. "How do we get it out?" Ethan searched the area and spotted a long, sturdy branch lying on the ground. "This might work," he said, grabbing it and testing its strength. With careful precision, he lowered the branch into the well, trying to hook the object. Clara held her breath, watching as Ethan maneuvered it expertly. Finally, he felt a tug, and with a determined pull, he lifted the object from the depths. As the item emerged, Clara's eyes widened. It was an ornate pendant, shining with an ethereal light, its surface engraved with the same symbols they had seen earlier. "This is it," Ethan exclaimed, holding the pendant aloft. "This is a charm. It can protect us from the shadow." Clara felt a surge of hope. "It's beautiful. We should keep it close." Oliver reached out to touch the pendant, and as he did, a warm glow enveloped them, filling the clearing with a sense of safety. "I can feel it," he said softly, a smile spreading across his face. "It feels like it's alive." "We have to keep looking," Clara said, her spirit rekindled. "There must be more items that can help us." With the pendant secure, they continued their exploration, venturing deeper into the forest. The shadows danced around them, but this time, Clara felt a sense of unity with her companions, a bond that would help them face whatever lay ahead. After a while, they came upon a fallen tree, its roots exposed like gnarled fingers reaching for the sky. "Let's check underneath," Ethan suggested, kneeling to investigate. As they dug through the loose soil, Clara's heart raced with anticipation. There has to be something here. Moments later, they unearthed a small wooden box, its surface carved with intricate designs. Ethan brushed the dirt away and opened it to reveal a collection of small trinkets, tiny figurines, old coins, and colorful stones. "Look!" Oliver exclaimed, picking up a small glass figurine that sparkled in the light. "This might have some power too." Clara inspected the other items, her excitement mounting. "These all feel special. We should take them with us." As they gathered the trinkets, Clara felt the forest shifting around them, an awareness that their time was limited. They had to confront the shadows soon, but with each item they discovered, their resolve grew stronger. Finally, as dusk began to settle, they made their way back to the clearing with the stone pedestal. The forest was alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant calls of birds, and the gentle whisper of the wind. But Clara's heart remained steady, bolstered by the power of the pendant and the trinkets they had found. Let's prepare, Clara said, her voice firm. We'll perform the ritual and face the shadow once more. We have everything we need to fight. As they gathered around the pedestal, Clara felt a sense of purpose washing over her. Together, they would confront the darkness that had threatened to tear them apart. Are you ready? Ethan asked, determination etched across his face. Clara nodded, her heart steady. Together, we'll show it that we're not afraid. With the pendant shining brightly in the fading light, they stood united against the impending night, ready to face whatever came their way. As twilight descended upon the forest, a blanket of shadows enveloped the clearing. Clara, Oliver, and Ethan stood together around the stone pedestal, the pendant glowing softly in Clara's hand. It pulsed with a warmth that filled her with hope, yet her heart raced with anticipation for what was to come. Are you sure we're ready? Oliver asked, glancing nervously at the encroaching darkness. What if it's even stronger this time? Ethan placed a reassuring hand on Oliver's shoulder. We've come this far. We have the pendant and the trinkets we found. Together, we can confront it. Remember what we learned. The shadow feeds on fear, and we can't let it get to us. Clara nodded, her resolve solidifying. We need to stay united. Whatever happens, we face it together. As they positioned themselves around the pedestal, Clara took a deep breath, summoning her courage. Let's begin the ritual, she said, her voice steady. She placed the pendant in the center of the pedestal, its glow illuminating the intricate symbols carved into the stone. Ethan and Oliver followed suit, placing the trinkets they had found around the pendant. Each item shimmered with potential, a testament to their journey and the strength they had discovered in one another. As the last trinket was set down, a low rumble echoed through the forest, and the temperature dropped sharply. The shadows around them deepened, twisting and swirling, as if alive. Clara felt a chill run down her spine, but she stood her ground, gripping the pendant tightly. Come forth, shadow, Clara called out, her voice ringing with defiance. We are not afraid of you. The wind picked up, howling through the trees as a figure began to take shape from the darkness. It loomed before them, a swirling mass of shadows that pulsed with malevolence. Clara's heart raced, but she could feel the power of the pendant coursing through her, urging her forward. Stay strong, Ethan shouted, stepping closer to Clara. We have to face it together. The shadow twisted, its form shifting to mimic their fears. Clara saw flashes of her past, the loneliness of her childhood, the darkness of her insecurities, and the whispering doubts that had followed her for so long. She felt the weight of it all pressing down on her, but she pushed through. Those are just illusions, Clara shouted, her voice cutting through the oppressive atmosphere. They can't hurt us. With that proclamation, she raised the pendant high, its light piercing the darkness. The shadow recoiled, momentarily faltering as the glow enveloped it. Oliver, now, Clara urged, knowing that they needed to work together to weaken the shadow further. Oliver stepped forward, his fear melting away as he focused on the trinket he held, the small glass figurine. You won't take us, he cried, channeling his newfound bravery into the object. We're stronger than you think. As he shouted, the figurine glimmered brightly, casting colorful reflections that danced across the clearing. The shadow shuddered, its form flickering as if unsure how to react. Ethan, it's your turn, Clara called, glancing at him. Ethan nodded, determination flooding his expression. He reached for one of the old coins they had unearthed, an artifact etched with symbols of protection. We reclaim our power, he shouted, his voice unwavering. You have no hold over us. As he raised the coin, a wave of energy surged through the air, mingling with the light from the pendant and Oliver's figurine. The combined forces illuminated the clearing, banishing the darkness for just a moment. But the shadow was relentless, swirling and shifting, trying to push back against their light. Clara could feel its anger, its hunger for despair, but she refused to let it consume her. We need to push through, Clara shouted, her voice ringing with resolve. Together, we can break its hold. They closed ranks around the pedestal, their hands joined, forming a circle of strength. On the count of 3, Clara said, her heart pounding, we unleash everything we've got. Okay, Oliver and Ethan replied in unison. 1, 2, 3. With that, they raised their artifacts high, channeling their collective energy into the light emanating from the pendant. Clara felt the surge of power as it radiated outward, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. "Begone, shadow," Clara cried, her voice echoing with authority. "You have no power here." The light burst forth, flooding the clearing in a brilliant glow. The shadow writhed, shrieking in protest as it was pushed back, its form unraveling before their eyes. Clara felt the darkness recede, replaced by a sense of liberation that filled her heart. But as the shadow began to dissipate, Clara realized something important. It wasn't just the darkness they were fighting, it was the fear within themselves. And as they confronted the shadow, they also confronted their own insecurities. "Look!" Oliver shouted, pointing as the last remnants of the shadow were consumed by the light. "It's fading." With one final cry, the shadow vanished, leaving behind only a shimmering haze that slowly dissipated into the night air. Clara stood in stunned silence, her heart racing as the realization washed over her. "We did it!" Ethan exclaimed, breaking the spell of silence that had settled over them. Clara, overwhelmed with emotion, hugged Oliver and Ethan tightly. "We really did it." As they pulled back, Clara noticed a change in the atmosphere. The air felt lighter, and the oppressive weight that had hung over the forest seemed to lift. The woods, once cloaked in darkness, now appeared vibrant and alive, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. "Do you think it's really gone?" Oliver asked, his eyes wide with wonder. "I think we've won this battle," Clara said, looking around at the peaceful clearing. "But we must remain vigilant. Darkness can return if we let our fears take hold again." Ethan nodded in agreement. "And we'll face it together, no matter what. This experience has made us stronger." As they stood together, united in their victory, Clara felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for her friends. They had faced the darkness, uncovered the secrets of the woods, and emerged victorious. "We should go home," Clara said, glancing back at the pedestal. "But we'll carry this light with us. We've learned how to confront our fears, and we won't forget that." With renewed hope in their hearts, they began their journey back through the forest, the path illuminated by the soft glow of the moonlight. The woods felt different now, less intimidating, more like a place of wonder. And as they walked together, Clara knew they would always carry the light within them, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Clara, Oliver, and Ethan made their way back through the woods, the tranquility of the night wrapped around them like a warm blanket. The moonlight filtered through the trees, illuminating their path and reflecting the sense of accomplishment that bubbled within them. "Can you believe we actually did that?" Oliver said, breaking the silence. "I still feel like I'm dreaming." Clara smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "It wasn't just us. We worked together. We faced our fears head-on." Ethan, who walked slightly ahead, paused to admire the moonlit scenery. "But I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning. The forest holds more secrets, and I have a feeling we're not done uncovering them yet." Clara nodded, contemplating Ethan's words. The pendant's warmth still lingered in her palm, a reminder of their battle against the shadow and the strength they had found within themselves. "What do you think is out there?" she asked, glancing back at the dense trees that loomed around them. "I've heard stories," Ethan said, his voice lowering as if sharing a secret. "Legends of lost spirits, hidden treasures, and ancient guardians that protect the forest. Some say that the forest itself is alive, watching over those who dare to venture in." Oliver shivered, a mix of excitement and apprehension flickering in his eyes. "I'm not sure I like the idea of an alive forest. What if it doesn't want us here?" Clara squeezed Oliver's shoulder reassuringly. "We're not here to invade. We're seeking answers, and as long as we approach it with respect, I believe we'll be safe." They continued walking, the sound of rustling leaves beneath their feet adding a rhythmic backdrop to their conversation. The air was charged with an electric energy, and Clara felt a pull toward the deeper parts of the forest, where the shadows danced and the trees whispered secrets. "Do you remember the old woman at the village?" Ethan suddenly asked, breaking the contemplative mood. "She warned us about the forest. Do you think she knows something we don't?" Clara recalled the woman's piercing gaze and the way she had clutched her amulet tightly. Maybe she does. Perhaps she has encountered the darkness before, or maybe she's aware of the legends. Should we go back and ask her? Oliver suggested, his voice tentative. Not just yet, Clara replied, her curiosity piqued. I want to explore a bit more before we seek out the old woman again. Let's see if we can find any clues about what's truly going on in this forest. They ventured deeper into the woods, following a narrow path that twisted and turned like a serpentine creature. The moonlight flickered through the branches, creating an ethereal glow that made the surroundings feel otherworldly. As they walked, they stumbled upon a peculiar sight, a grove of ancient trees, their gnarled roots twisting like serpents through the earth. In the center stood a massive tree, larger than any they had seen before. Its bark was etched with intricate patterns, reminiscent of the symbols on the pedestal where they had faced the shadow. This tree is incredible, Ethan said, his eyes wide with wonder. It looks like it holds stories of its own. Clara stepped closer, tracing her fingers along the bark. Do you think it could be a guardian of the forest? Maybe it has witnessed everything that has happened here. Let's see if we can find any clues, Oliver suggested, his excitement palpable. Maybe we can learn something from it. They spread out around the tree, examining the ground for anything unusual. Clara knelt down and noticed something partially hidden beneath a blanket of moss. She brushed aside the greenery to reveal a small, ornate box, intricately carved with the same symbols that adorned the tree. Guys, look at this, Clara called, her heart racing as she carefully lifted the box. It's beautiful. Ethan and Oliver hurried over, their curiosity piqued. What do you think is inside? Ethan asked, peering over Clara's shoulder. Only one way to find out, Clara replied, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to open the box. It was locked tight, with no visible keyhole. As she examined it, she felt a familiar warmth radiating from the pendant still in her hand. Inspired, she held the pendant close to the box. To her surprise, the pendant began to glow brighter, illuminating the intricate carvings on the box. What's happening? Oliver asked, his eyes widening. I think the pendant is reacting to this box, Clara exclaimed. Maybe it's meant to unlock it somehow. With a deep breath, Clara pressed the pendant against the center of the box. The glow intensified, enveloping the box in a halo of light. Slowly, the latch clicked open, and Clara's heart raced as she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft velvet, lay a collection of delicate trinkets, tiny carved animals, shimmering stones, and an old, faded map. Clara carefully picked up the map, her fingers trembling with anticipation. This could be it, she whispered, her heart pounding. This could lead us to more secrets of the forest. As she unfurled the map, the intricate lines and markings revealed a detailed layout of the woods, with several locations marked by XS, much like the map they had encountered earlier in their journey. What do the markings mean? Oliver asked, leaning in closer to examine the map. I'm not sure, Clara said, her brow furrowed in concentration. But it looks like there are more places we need to explore. Ethan pointed to one of the marked locations. This one is closest to where we found the pendant. Maybe we should head there next. Clara nodded, her excitement mingling with determination. Absolutely. This map could help us uncover the deeper mysteries of the forest and why it's connected to our encounter with the shadow. With renewed purpose, they studied the map together, plotting their next move. Clara felt a thrill of adventure coursing through her veins. The forest was alive with possibilities, and they were ready to unravel its secrets. Let's do this, Clara said, her heart racing with excitement. Together, we'll uncover the truth behind the mysteries of this forest. As they set off once more, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. The woods whispered around them, secrets lurking just beneath the surface, and she was determined to uncover every one of them. With the ancient map guiding them, Clara, Oliver, and Ethan navigated through the winding paths of the forest, each step laden with anticipation and uncertainty. The air felt charged, as if the forest itself were holding its breath, waiting for them to uncover its deepest secrets. As they approached the marked location, an area that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, they noticed a distinct shift in the atmosphere. The The trees stood taller and closer together, their trunks thicker, creating a tunnel of shadows that closed in around them. The sounds of the forest faded, replaced by an eerie silence that wrapped around them like a shroud. "Is it just me, or does it feel different here?" Oliver whispered, glancing around nervously. "It feels charged," Ethan replied, his eyes darting to the branches overhead, like something significant is about to happen. Clara led the way, clutching the map tightly in her hands. "This is it. We're close. The marked spot is just ahead." As they moved deeper into the thicket, they finally reached a clearing where the ground was covered in soft moss, and the moonlight cascaded down in a silvery glow. At the center of the clearing stood a stone altar, similar to the pedestal where they had confronted the shadow. But this one was adorned with strange carvings, pulsing with a faint blue light. "What do you think this is?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think it's a place of power," Ethan said, stepping closer to the altar. "It might be connected to the energy we felt earlier." As they approached the altar, Clara noticed that the symbols on the stone matched those on the map. She set the ancient box down and laid the map beside the altar, studying the markings closely. "This must be the location we were meant to find. But what do we do now?" Ethan's eyes widened as he pointed to one of the symbols on the altar. "Look, it corresponds with the markings on the map. Maybe we need to activate it somehow." Clara nodded, her heart racing. "We need to place our trinkets here just like we did with the pendant before. It seems like the altar is waiting for us." One by one, they retrieved their artifacts from their pockets and placed them on the altar. The moment the last trinket touched the stone, a blinding light erupted from the altar, bathing the clearing in a brilliant glow. "What's happening?" Oliver shouted, shielding his eyes from the intense brightness. "Stay close," Clara yelled, grabbing Oliver and Ethan's hands. "Whatever it is, we need to face it together." As the light enveloped them, they felt a powerful energy surge through their bodies, connecting them to the altar. The world around them began to shift, warping and bending as if they were being drawn into a different realm. Suddenly, the illumination faded, and they found themselves standing in a vast, shadowy expanse, unlike anything they had ever seen. The air was thick with fog, and ghostly figures flitted through the mist, their forms barely visible. "Where are we?" Ethan asked, his voice echoing in the void. "I think we're in a kind of liminal space," Clara said, her heart racing. "It's a place between worlds. We must be close to the source of the forest's power." As they took tentative steps forward, Clara noticed the shadows shifting, coalescing into the familiar form of the dark shadow they had faced before. This time, it appeared larger and more formidable, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "Welcome back, children," it hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that resonated within their minds. "You think you can defeat me? You are but fleeting flames in the darkness." Clara felt a wave of fear wash over her, but remembered the strength they had found together. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, her voice steadying. "We've come to uncover the truth." The shadow laughed, a sound like rustling leaves mixed with thunder. "Truth? You seek the truth? Very well, I shall reveal it to you." With a wave of its hand, the shadow conjured images from the past, and Clara watched in horror as scenes from her childhood unfolded before her eyes. She saw herself standing alone in her room, the weight of loneliness pressing down on her. The shadow was the embodiment of her fears, the memories she had tried to bury. "Every tear you shed, every moment of despair," it taunted, "they have fed me, made me stronger. I am the darkness that dwells within you all." "Stop it," Clara cried, her heart pounding. "You don't have control over us anymore." Ethan stepped forward, fists clenched. "We've faced you once, and we won. We won't let you manipulate us again." The shadow turned its attention to Ethan, its eyes narrowing. "Ah, the brave one. You believe strength lies in defiance? But I am the darkness that exists in every heart. You cannot escape me." "Watch us," Oliver declared, stepping beside his friends. "We found our strength in unity. You're nothing without our fear." As they joined hands, a brilliant light emanated from their bond, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. Clara felt the warmth of their connection spreading through her, banishing the fear that had once held her captive. "Together, we are stronger than you," Clara shouted, her voice echoing through the void. "You thrive on our fears, but we choose hope." The shadow shrieked, twisting and contorting as the light enveloped it. "No, you cannot banish me." But Clara and her friends pressed forward, the light growing brighter and more powerful. The shadows began to dissipate, revealing the vibrant colors of the forest once more. The space around them transformed, and Clara could see the true essence of the forest, its beauty, its strength, and the interconnectedness of all living things. In that moment of clarity, Clara realized that the shadow represented not just her fears, but the fears that everyone carried within them. And by confronting it, they were not just freeing themselves, but offering a glimmer of hope to others who had been trapped in darkness. With one final surge of light, they pushed back against the shadow, watching as it writhed and twisted until it shattered into 1,000 shards, each glimmering like stars before vanishing into the ether. As the clearing returned to its tranquil state, Clara and her friends found themselves back at the altar, the moonlight bathing them in its gentle glow. The energy from their confrontation still crackled in the air, but a sense of peace enveloped them. "We did it." Oliver breathed, looking around in awe. "We really did it." Clara smiled, feeling an overwhelming sense of relief. "We faced the darkness and emerged stronger. We've unlocked something incredible in ourselves." Ethan grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "But this isn't the end. We've discovered the source of the forest power, and we have the map. There are more secrets to uncover." Clara nodded, her heart swelling with determination. "Then let's continue our journey. Together, we'll explore the wonders of this forest and uncover the stories it holds." With a newfound sense of purpose, the trio began to plot their next adventure, eager to delve deeper into the mysteries that awaited them. The forest was alive, and so were they, filled with hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond of friendship. The sun began to rise over the forest, casting golden rays through the trees and illuminating the path ahead. Clara, Oliver, and Ethan stood at the altar, still buzzing from their intense confrontation with the shadow. The atmosphere was charged, and the world felt more vibrant than ever. But beneath the exhilaration, a sense of gravity hung in the air. Did we really defeat it? Clara pondered, gazing into the distance where the shadows of the trees danced in the morning light. "I think we did," Ethan replied, squinting into the sunlight. "But something tells me that the shadow wasn't the only darkness in this forest." Oliver nodded, his brow furrowing in thought. "What if there are more like it? More fears we haven't confronted yet?" The realization settled over them like a heavy mist. The forest, with its beauty, held deeper mysteries and challenges that would require more than courage to navigate. Clara took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "We need to process what happened. We can't just dive into the next adventure without understanding the power we've unleashed." "Agreed," Ethan said, his tone serious. "We should talk about our fears and how they connect to the shadow we faced." As they sat down on the mossy ground around the altar, the forest came alive with sounds. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and the gentle whisper of the wind. Clara closed her eyes, allowing herself to be enveloped by the serenity of the moment. "I'll go first," she said, opening her eyes and looking at her friends. "When I was facing the shadow, I realized it was built from all my insecurities, my fear of being alone, of not being enough. That's what fueled its power." Oliver nodded, understanding etched on his face. "For me, it was about fear of failure. I always worry that I'll let everyone down, that I won't measure up to what's expected of me. The shadow made me confront that." Ethan, usually the more adventurous one, took a moment to gather his thoughts. "I've always feared that I'll lose the people I care about. When the shadow was taunting us, I felt that fear rising within me, making me question if I could protect my friends." Clara's heart ached for her friends as she listened to their vulnerabilities. "We've all faced our fears in different ways, but we overcame them together, which makes us stronger." As they shared their fears, Clara felt a weight lift off her shoulders. They were no longer just friends navigating a mystical forest. They were a support system, a united front against the darkness that lay both within and outside of them. "Let's promise to always be honest about our fears," Clara suggested. "We can't let the darkness grow again." "I'm in," Oliver agreed, looking relieved. "We need to keep this connection strong." Ethan nodded enthusiastically. "And if we do encounter more shadows, we'll face them together, just like we did before." With their pact made, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just adventurers. They were allies in a battle against the shadows lurking in their hearts and in the world around them. They stood up, invigorated by their shared resolve. "Let's take a look at the map again," Clara said, glancing at the ancient parchments spread out on the altar. "We've uncovered one mystery, but there are more symbols we haven't explored yet." As they examined the map, they noticed a series of markings leading toward a hidden area deeper within the forest, a place marked with an unusual symbol that resembled an eye. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. "What do you think this means?" Oliver shrugged, glancing around nervously. "It might mean that there's something, or someone watching us. We should be cautious." Ethan grinned, the thrill of adventure igniting his spirit. "Or it could mean we're about to discover something amazing. Let's go find out." With the sun high in the sky, illuminating their path, the trio set off toward the new destination, their hearts pounding with excitement and a hint of trepidation. As they moved through the forest, Clara felt the energy of the place change. It was almost as if the trees were alive, whispering secrets to each other as they walked past. After a while, they reached a clearing surrounded by towering trees. At the center stood an enormous boulder, etched with ancient runes that glimmered in the sunlight. The air felt thick with anticipation, and Clara could sense something monumental lay before them. "Wow," Oliver breathed, stepping forward. "This place feels powerful." Clara moved closer to the boulder, her fingers grazing the cool stone. "These runes, they look similar to the ones we saw on the altar." Ethan squinted at the markings, his curiosity piqued. "Maybe they hold the key to understanding what's next for us." As they examined the runes, Clara felt an odd sensation, as if the markings were alive and pulsating with energy. Suddenly, the runes began to glow brighter, illuminating the clearing with a radiant light. "What's happening?" Oliver exclaimed, taking a step back. "Stay close," Clara shouted, grabbing their hands again as the light enveloped them. The energy surged, wrapping around them like a protective cocoon, and they felt themselves being drawn into the boulder's surface. "Hold on!" Ethan yelled, his voice filled with exhilaration as they were whisked away into a new realm of possibilities. In an instant, they found themselves in a vast, shimmering landscape filled with ethereal light and colors they had never imagined. Everything felt alive, as if the very fabric of reality was woven with magic and wonder. "Where are we?" Clara asked, awestruck by the beauty surrounding them. "This must be the heart of the forest." Ethan breathed, his eyes wide with amazement. "It's incredible." As they stepped forward, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they had entered a realm where their fears could transform into hope, where every shadow they had faced had led them to this moment of light and unity. Together, they stood on the threshold of a new adventure, their spirits intertwined as they ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. As Clara, Oliver, and Ethan stepped into the radiant landscape, they felt an overwhelming sense of possibility. The colors around them shifted and swirled like a dream, illuminating their path with an otherworldly glow. Each step resonated with the energy of the forest, intertwining with their own spirits. "This place feels alive," Clara whispered, her heart racing with wonder. "It's as if the forest is welcoming us." "Look!" Ethan pointed ahead, where a magnificent tree stood taller than any they had seen before. Its bark shimmered like silver, and its leaves sparkled like diamonds in the light. "That tree, it must be the source of all this magic." With a shared determination, they moved toward the magnificent tree, their excitement palpable. As they approached, Clara noticed intricate patterns etched into the trunk, resembling the runes they had seen on the boulder. "Maybe these markings tell us something," Oliver suggested, stepping closer to examine them. "They look like they're part of a story, Clara placed her hand against the tree, feeling its warmth radiate through her fingertips. In that moment, a surge of memories flooded her mind. Memories of her fears, her journey, and the bond she had forged with her friends. As the memories washed over her, she could hear a soft, melodic voice echoing around them. Brave souls who have come to seek the truth, you have faced your fears and emerged stronger. This tree stands as a testament to your courage and unity. The voice felt familiar, yet distant, as if it were an echo from another realm. Clara glanced at Oliver and Ethan, their eyes wide with awe. "What do we do now?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with wonder. "Embrace the light," Clara replied, her voice steady with conviction. "We've come so far, and I think this tree holds the key to our next chapter." Together, they placed their hands on the tree, feeling a rush of energy surge through them. The tree responded with a soft hum, resonating with their touch. The world around them shimmered, and Clara felt their fears dissolve, replaced by a sense of peace and clarity. "Each of you carries a part of this forest within you," the voice continued, wrapping around them like a gentle embrace. "Your courage, your friendships, and your willingness to face the darkness have awakened the spirit of the forest. It is now your responsibility to carry its light into the world." Suddenly, the leaves of the tree began to rustle, and a cascade of shimmering light enveloped them, lifting them off the ground. Clara felt a sense of weightlessness as they were lifted higher and higher, surrounded by the ethereal glow. "Hold on to each other," Oliver shouted, gripping their hands tightly. As they soared through the air, Clara felt their connection strengthening, the light weaving them together into a single, vibrant entity. They were no longer just individuals. They were a force of unity, embodying the very essence of the forest. The world below faded away, and they found themselves floating above a breathtaking panorama of colors and shapes. The trees below danced in rhythm with their heartbeats, the landscape alive with energy. Clara realized that they were witnessing the heartbeat of the forest, a symphony of life that pulsed with their every thought and emotion. "Look!" Ethan pointed toward the horizon, where the sun began to rise, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. "It's beautiful." Clara's heart swelled with gratitude as she watched the dawn break. "This is our gift, our new beginning." With a gentle sigh, the tree released them, allowing them to drift back to the ground. They landed softly in the clearing, surrounded by the forest that had become their sanctuary. The ethereal glow lingered in the air, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken. "Do you feel it?" Oliver said, glancing around. "The forest feels different now. It's like it's awake." Ethan nodded, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "We've awakened its spirit. We're meant to protect this place and share its magic with others." Clara looked at her friends, their expressions filled with determination and hope. "We've faced our shadows and discovered our light. Together, we can make a difference, not just here, but everywhere we go." As they stood in the clearing, a sense of purpose settled over them. They had unlocked a deeper understanding of themselves and their connection to the world around them. The forest was no longer just a backdrop for their adventures. It was a living entity that thrived on their love and courage. "Let's explore more," Clara suggested, her eyes sparkling with possibility. "There are countless stories waiting to be uncovered. Together, we can carry the light of the forest wherever we go." With renewed determination, they set off deeper into the woods, ready to embrace whatever mysteries awaited them. The sun continued to rise, illuminating their path as they journeyed forward, united by the bonds of friendship and the spirit of adventure. And as the shadows of the past faded into memory, they stepped boldly into the light of their future, knowing that they were never alone. They had each other, and together, they could face any challenge that lay ahead. Don't forget to subscribe in the channel and like the video for more contents.